Today's guest on the next episode of Behind the Bars podcast is Trevor Brooks, a man who might be the most famous man that you've never heard of. If you have been to a live event that involves dirt bikes, four-wheel drives, bulls on monster trucks, chances are this man built that track. If you've seen Taylor Swift in the last year in Australia, guess who helped move that show set around the tour? He worked his first live event in 1988. I'm not trying to make him feel old, but even before that, he had a very decorated privateer motocross career. He is the mad dirt ramp scientist. He is Trevor Brooks. Brooksy, a.k.a. Tractor Trev. Welcome to Behind the Bars.
Thanks, Brownie. Thanks for having me.
Mate, this has been a long time in the making for me when I first did up the list of who I wanted to get on this podcast. And you know, having spent 22 years with you touring across Nitro Circus, Crusty Demons, Monster Trucks, Racer Champions, Supercross, and more recently, only a couple of weeks ago, Freestyle Kings through North Queensland, I need to do the story of Trevor Brooks justice because it has been a life very well lived in your years to date. So I want to start at the start, Trev. How and where did Trev grow up?
Born and bred in Ballarat, in Victoria, Western Victoria. Been here all my life. Don't have any plans on leaving, to be honest, but that's where it all began. Went to a few different schools when I was a kid, moved around a little bit. Golden Point, which is where gold was first discovered in Ballarat, and then moved out to Brown Hill. Parents brought a hotel. Lived in a hotel for 14 years. While Mum and Dad had the pub for 14 years, I lived in there for a while.
What?
Yeah, that was my... Yeah, we grew up in the pub. It was always a
Explains a bit.
Yeah. So I actually didn't drink too much when I was living in there because I was racing bikes and I was, believe it or not, dedicated. So I didn't drink too much. But then when I gave up bikes, it changed. What else can I say?
Well, here I'll interject here because through the help of your son Toddy and wife Louise, I dug up a whole bunch of old photos and really proving that you were very dedicated to your craft of motocross racing. One of the news articles I read was your father Earl was the president of the Ballarat Motorcycle Club. Is that how the love and life of dirt bikes kind of started for you?
No, it works the other way. I mean, Dad was into bikes too, but he became the president of Ballarat Rovers Motorcycle Club, like sort of probably 5-6 years after I started racing. It kind of went the other way.
Yeah, okay. So you're living in a hotel. How does a country boy in Ballarat live in a hotel and kind of excel as a racer? Like how are you doing that if you're not on property?
We had a pretty good, like I could ride up to the back of the hotel, so I could do a bit of practice there. We had a few good tracks around the area, Newtown, Monza Park, which is close to where we live now. So there was plenty of opportunity to keep riding. It wasn't overbuilt, and plenty of areas to ride. So that wasn't too bad. But yeah, I was also an apprentice boilermaker. So I'd do that through the day, then come and work in the pub at the night, then try and prep my bikes and whatever in a little, well, it was probably 10-foot by 6-foot shed in the back of the pub. So that was pretty tough. But eventually we moved on, and I would go to a friend's place and work on the bikes there, and he'd help me out every night. And yeah, it was pretty tough living in the pub, but it was still a good opportunity. So I could make a little bit of cash on the side and still keep riding, without having to, like, semi-professional, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, so it had its ups or its pros and its cons.
Do you think, I've got a few kind of bit of commentary from a few people you've worked with over the years, and going to have a couple of your humps, bumps and jumps crew come on to chat, which I'm like equally parts terrified and excited for, Neil Kerr and Quirky. But do you think that upbringing and how hard you worked during those years, and particularly during your racing career, is what's kind of kept you such a hard worker to this day, even into your 60s?
Yeah, definitely. I think probably bred into me a little bit through my mum. She was a pretty good, dedicated, hard worker. She was a backbone to the pub, that's for sure. But my dad he was a truck driver before that, and he was always away from Monday to Friday pretty much. So mum put in the hard yards, and she always did the hard work. So I think I got it from her, to be honest.
So did you ever think you were going to be a full-time professional racer, or you didn't quite have, because we're going to have Craig Dack on as well, like, and he's your best mate from those days who has had a very storied and successful racing career himself. What were your ambitions as a teenager? And I've got a whole bunch of articles we're going to look at later. You were the Ballarat Victorian champion. You travelled overseas on it, but was there not enough money in it, or you weren't quite good enough, or a combination of both?
A combination of both. It was pretty. I mean, it's tough now. The top so many make money, and the rest just fill in the blanks. And I was one of the ones that filled in the blanks. So I've sort of suffered nerves, I would say. So I could line up with all the good guys one week. If I missed the motocross, for example, and I could just, I don't know, I'd go to pieces, so to speak. And then the following weekend, it would be just a local race, but I'd be able to beat half them. So, yeah,
it's funny. I wouldn't, having known you for so long, self-doubt is not something I would probably associate with you, but it's obviously a bit different growing up and in the theatre of racing.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how much self-doubt I have, Brandon, to be honest.
Well, we might unpack that a bit later.
You might.
So you're a full-time apprentice boilermaker, racing, working in the pub. Your racing career kind of comes to the end in the late 80s, and you pretty much go straight into working live events in 1988, was it?
Yeah, that's correct.
One thing I will say about Trev is any dates and numbers I throw out today, I've gotten from Trev, because he is the almanac, and it's his memory is stuff of legend. And I'm sure we're going to that's going to float in and out of today's episode. His incredible recollection of so much stuff, good, bad, and indifferent. So yeah, 1988, you finished your racing career, and all of a sudden you're prepping the tracks for the guys you were racing with and against? Pretty much,
yeah. I gave it away at the end of 86, and then Supercross was only just coming into the, of live events, so to speak. I'm using so to speak a lot. But anyway, we travelled up I raced at the first indoor, which is Supercross Masters in Sydney, and that was in the entertainment centre, and that was pretty big, very big at the time. And following year, we went up to watch it because it was such a good event. We might have a little bit of a party while we were up there.
Don't believe it.
Yeah, I was chatting with the promoters at the after party. They said, "Oh, we're coming to Melbourne next year." I said, "Well, let me know. I'll come down and give you a hand." Following year was the first or second event in the new tennis centre.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I just went down and helped out there, and they said, "Oh, you go, all right? Do you want to come up to Sydney in a couple of weeks?" Oh, but I said, "Yeah, why not?" So we went up there, and then the rest is history.
And I would describe you, Trev, if machinery work, bobcat driving, or forklifting was an Olympic sport, you would be a multiple times champion at that. When you kind of started in the live event space, were you trained in the machinery that you drive so comfortably these days?
No, not at all. Not at all. Probably never driven a forklift. Definitely never driven a bobcat. I might have driven a backhoe around them, but only a half-hour play in someone's backyard. But I'd never driven any equipment, or I was a boilermaker.
We talk about, particularly people behind the scenes, the bug of live events and that kind of exhilarating feeling of people like you and I behind the scenes doing all the work done for the stars of the show and the fans to enjoy it. Did you capture that feeling straight away when you started on the Supercross? Did you think this was where your career was then going to head?
No, not at all. I still don't have an end game, so I never had one then. But I remember I got 35, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm too old to do this." And here we are at 65 in a couple of months, and still doing it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we all marvel, Trev, at the fact that you're still doing what you're doing to this day, because I mean, I was a victim of this space 6-7 years ago. You talk about self-doubt and getting in a bad spot. But I was able to get out the other end. But the fact that you still do what you do, and, you know, I think sometimes a little bit more grumpy than you used to be, but also sometimes a lot less carefree. And I think part of that is that you've been able to share the touring stage with your son, Toddy.
Yeah, that's been pretty good.
So when you started doing all the live events and the Supercrosses, were you a dad at that point? Not quite.
No, not quite. Louise and I got married in 92.
High school sweethearts?
Kindergarten sweethearts.
Kindergarten sweethearts. It was always Louise.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we actually went to kindergarten together. Our parents worked together. And we went to we didn't go to primary school together. We went to high school together. And then we were just good friends. And then we connected, I think it was the end of year party. And then the rest is history. So, yeah.
I think it's one of the really cool things about you, Trev, that people might not know is this really soft and family side. And one of the things that makes this job really difficult is being away from your family a lot. I know it's kind of something that I struggle with at the moment with 2 young kids. How did you, when you became a dad and your touring life was really kicking off, how did you kind of process that and kind of decompartmentalize what you had to do for a job, and then, you know, sometimes missing very important things as well?
Yeah, anyone in this industry's missed, you know, a whole range of family, personal, you know, obligations, and it's certainly not easy, and some people can deal with, some people can't. I guess you've got to be lucky enough to have the right partner. I think that makes, you know, all the difference, because there's plenty of people would walk away when you're not there, you know. So
yeah, when we did Freestyle Kings Ballarat earlier this year, and we came to the legendary Brooksy Boneyard, which we're going to talk about shortly, and I was talking to Louise about kind of you being away a lot, and, you know, Toddy had struggled with it a fair bit. And I actually asked Toddy, I asked him this exact question, what are your memories of this? And he said, I asked him, did you hate that your dad not there all the time, I should say? And he wrote this, which I thought was so sweet. I kind of hated it because he was never around enough at races and shit, but I grew up and realized we had what we had because of what he did for our family, which is why I do it now for my family, which I just thought was really sweet. And, you know, that's kind of a real snapshot. You know, it goes full circle in 2015. You take Toddy on the road with you, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was, I don't know how it all come about, but he's struggling getting a job or keeping a job, or whatever it was. And we went to India was the first one.
You told me, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a tyre demo or something like that?
Yeah.
Tyre promo?
What's his name? It was called then.
I'm sure his name wasn't Gonzo.
You know him. Gonzo was the advertising sponsorship guy for Mike. Big Gonzo.
So this is Trev's memory working.
Yeah, he went and worked with Brendan and Cameron.
Dan Morgan.
And Morgan, thanks for that. So he put together a sponsorship deal, and it was Bilko, I remember the name of the tyre company. So
Apollo, I think it was.
Apollo it was, yeah. And we just went over and they built this freestyle setup, and it was quite amazing. And we needed to fill a gap. It was me and Kerry and Todd, I think. We needed to fill a hole, someone to drive a machine or whatever. And Todd, I said, I'll put Todd's hand up. So anyway, off we went, and it was his first. He worked on a few Supercrosses with me earlier on before that, but he just took it by the ball, so to speak, and ran with it, and killed it. So everyone was happy with him. I was happy with him, and then we just went on from there. So,
yeah, cool. Yeah. We're gonna talk about that a bit more in a bit, but I want to talk about the kind of how you started as a labourer in 1988, and then in the next few years, humps, bumps, and jumps the idea was born. Is that the kind of timeline of how that played out?
Yeah, it went on for nearly 10 years, and then 97, I think. I pretty much gave it away. I might have been 96 and then Todd was born in 97. Had a bit of a break, and then a few things went down while I was having a break. The ex-boss, he rang me and said, "Oh, could you come back and work again?" I went, "Oh, yeah, I suppose." So I went back and kept doing some supercrosses, and then honestly, it just didn't stop from there. That was kind of when I went full time with it. Motor shows are ringing me, and yeah, just snowballed, doing horse events and rodeos.
You did the first. You just mentioned you did the first event at Rod Laver Arena, but you did the first event at what was called the Sydney Superdome. Now is Afterpay Arena, Kudos Bank Arena. You did the Supercross was the first event there as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was meant to be Pavarotti, and I think he got a sore throat, so he didn't have when we first event. It's a brand new venue, and Sharpie was involved in too, but it was a brand new venue and it was horrible. No one knew what was going on. Couldn't run the ventilation. There was Rio hanging out of the concrete because everything was built so quick for the Olympics that year.
Yeah. And there's that funny story that Robbie Madison was an apprentice electrician helping build that arena and the stadium next door. So if any of the wiring wasn't working when you started there, it was his fault probably.
Fair chance on that one, yeah.
So your career's starting to take off, and we've got some photos we'll talk about later. But I think the Supercross you were well ingrained to because you had a relationship and history with the promoters, and you were a very well respected person in that industry. How does Crusty Demons come into your life?
They did the first one in '99 over in Perth or Kalgoorlie or wherever it may have been. And there's a fellow named Wayne McNabb. He sort of put that together with Freeman and Dana. And he got all excited and started going around to promoters, and he ended up finding a promoter, which is SEL, Sports and Entertainment Limited. They put on and they did 3 indoor shows at Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, maybe in that order. And because I had a good reputation with the venues, I got the call, I guess, and then and I had a bit of history with FMX, and so off we went and did that tour, 2001. It would have been.
Yeah, wow. I mean, Wayne McNabb was such a visionary, and I think even to this day in my role, I do all the venue bookings for Freestyle Kings, and when there's a concern about turf, all I have to do is drop Brooksy's name, and it just calms every groundsman or most groundsmen around the world down to know that your reputation for protecting turf and looking after venues is so great today. And by the sounds of it, you kind of built that reputation and legacy very early on.
Yeah, I've always tried. I mean, I've had some failures as well, but learnt from most of them, and yeah, I hopefully don't do it twice. But I always say to all the guys, because they'll go, "Oh, how do you put up with that groundsman?" or "How do you put up with that guy?" And I go, "Well, you've got to understand that we are in their lounge room, pretty much taking a shit on their carpet. So you've got to give them respect, that they deserve." And that's sort of how I've lived, and got through it, and hopefully got the reputation.
Well, you certainly do, Trev. You certainly do. A couple of your humps, bumps, and jumps cronies are about to join us. It's not a surprise. Neil Kerr and Quirky are coming on. How is building the tracks and stuff easy compared to managing a team?
No, not if you've got the right team. That's about all I've got to say. So I've been pretty lucky with it. We weed them out pretty quick though, if they're not.
They've been a lot of people have been chewed up and spat out over the years. Not just from the humps, bumps, and jumps team. That's for sure.
No. I mean, you got to be special to work in this business. There's no doubt about that. And if you can't cut it, we pretty much learn that in the first week. That's for sure. So some people you can train and they get it. Some just no idea. So, bye.
They get sent to Switzerland.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a bit of an in joke, but I might not not in the business of ruining anyone's reputation but my own, so I won't tell that full story. So I'll just potato myself. So Crusty evolves in its infancy. What does a show set look like for Crusty Demons in 2000?
It was pretty good, actually. There was a lot of money spent on lighting. Dirt jumps were dirt jumps. They we had a corrugated iron fence all the way around the arena. That looked cool, but wasn't real cool when Larry Linkogle decided to call everyone down and go off and wreck the place. So there's kids in there jumping over the rail and cutting slicing their hands open.
God, that was just chaos in the pre-mobile phone era, wasn't it? Like we'll talk about the evolution from kind of Crusties to Nitro to Freestyle Kings and how things have changed on and off the dirt bike, in and away from the show set. But I know I've seen that vision of that chaos. Well, to those of you who are just listening, we've got a special guest here right now. In fact, two of them have turned up at the same time, which is exactly how we planned it in our pre-production meeting yesterday. So,
yeah, well,
we've done well. So I'll just introduce the two guys first, and then I want Trev to introduce them, and then I'm going to throw to the boys. So we've got Quirky, Michael Quirk. He a Ballarat kid as well. First met Brooksy in a Ballarat gold mine in the mid-90s, he thinks. Trev confirmed that Quirky started working for him in 1997. Quirky thought it was around that area, but once again, we're relying on Trev's almanac of knowledge. And then we've got Neil Kerr, who is most definitely not driving a truck right now. He thinks he started working with and for Trev in 2008 on the Crusty Demons Tour, working right up until 2019. So, Trev, you see these two great faces. What's your first thoughts?
We've all aged well.
Oh, looks like a Dementia Anonymous grouping at the moment, the four of us, doesn't it?
Are you shifting gears, Kerry, or what?
No, I'm just sitting here, mate.
All good. How are you, boys?
Hey, good on you, Trev. Yeah, I'm good.
So it was 97 I met Quirky in the mine, and it was 99 the first Crusty.
He's fact-checked me.
Yeah, and then so from there, Quirky stuck around for quite a while, and then Kerry, I reckon it was 2000 was it 2008, the first Supercross?
No, my first show was at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong.
Yeah.
When we had to bring the Murray pads out of Melbourne. Was my first gig.
That's probably 2007.
Yeah, I thought 2007-ish, yeah.
Without...
As I tell everyone anyway, when I'm what was the Brushes in 2007?
I'm sure it is, because...
I can't believe you haven't got that absolutely correct, Brooksy, that memory of yours.
No, it's played me Quirky, but it is played. There's some things you don't want to remember these days. One hard to get, I guess.
So Quirky, I'm gonna ask you first. You meet Trev in the late 90s. You're not much more than a kid yourself. First impressions of Trev.
Yeah, well, as you say, I was only young back then and working with Brooksy in the mine. We didn't know each other until then, but we started having a few beers after work and stuff, and that's how we sort of started knocking around. And then, Brooksy hit me up one day just to, he said, I got this gig on in Rod Laver Arena. He said, I reckon you'd be good on the digger to take the dirt out. And I was like, I don't know, like, no idea. But anyway, he got me down there, he got me doing it, and I didn't think I did that good of a job of it, but he must have saw something that I didn't, because he kept getting me back for more gigs.
You didn't leave the tennis court up. Oh, there's a start.
Neil Kerr, how did I talked about Trev being if forklifting and machine operation was an Olympic sport, he'd be a near certain gold medalist. But the challenger to that throne may be yourself. How did you get mixed up with Brooksy and end up in the humps, bumps, and jumps crew?
Well, I started with Quirky actually, driving the truck to Wollongong for the first. That was my first tour, and I was it was great. It was going away for 17 weeks. Going to Darwin and Townsville. all these places I'd never been. And I was so excited. Then we got up to Wollongong and we unloaded the truck, me and Brooksy, me and Quirky and Dino. And I didn't meet Brooksy until later on because he flew in a little bit later in the day. And I was very impressed. Yeah, I was very impressed. He walked up and he goes, "Where's this Kerry?" And he came up and shook my hand. He said, "I'm Brooksy." And I got to tell you, right from the start, there was just like I had instant respect for him. I did for Michael too, but you know, like it was just, it was like, you know, it was like I was welcomed into it. So it was good.
We talked about just before you guys got on, like how close the HBJ crew was, and it would weed out people pretty quickly if they didn't fit in. And you know, you went and did, let's call it 11 or 12 years with Trev. Doing the Supercross, the Crusties, and the Nitro Circus. What's he like as a boss?
Well, one thing you've got to remember when you're dealing with Trevor is you can't get upset if you get yelled at, because you get yelled at if you do the wrong thing, and you just got to take it on the chin, because he's a perfectionist when it comes to what we do. And obviously people's lives were on the line. If we did wrong, things didn't happen, and show never happened, and it was his reputation and so on and so forth. So you basically, if Trev said do it this way and you didn't do it this way, you got told off. And to me, that's the only way to be. That's just being straight up, honest, and forthright. And some people couldn't handle that. I did. I won't say I handled it right at the start. I think the first time he told me off, I'm like, fuck this. But at the same time, I actually didn't get yelled at that much. I actually was pretty lucky, because I just went and done what he told me to do. And I've always done that with other people. But he taught me a lot. In that 11 or 12 years, the things that I learned build my business now that I do, obviously, with trucks. And that goes for Quirky as well. But we were a great team. It was as simple as that. The team was one team, one dream. We all worked hard together. We played together. And they were good times.
Yeah.
Quirky?
Yeah, well,
Trevor the boss.
I'd say the same thing. So that was the thing. As I say, I started off at a very young age with Brooksy, and he and I was green, and I'd come from an earth moving background, and he took me on the road doing touring shows and things, and that I knew nothing of it, and he mentored me and he taught me a lot. So along the way, that was the thing. Just the respect and that you had for him, because he took you under his wing, and he taught you everything. As Kerry said, he was a hard taskmaster. I originally in the early days thought he was trying to kill me with sleep deprivation. Like, it's just the work ethic, like Kerry said, the perfectionism, everything had to be done, perfect before we could even think about sleeping. You know what I mean? Like, we worked day and night until everything was perfect. He just, and he had that, win at all cost attitude. Like, there was no such thing as failure. Failure just was not an option. Everything was based around that. Yeah. But as I say, hard taskmaster. Yes, we butted heads a lot of times, but that's the thing with Brooksy. You could have a disagreement, you could butt heads with him, but 10 minutes later, it was all forgotten. It was all moved on. We'd be having a beer together again,
It's funny. I asked, you guys wouldn't be familiar with, but Trev and I are doing the Freestyle Kings together these days, and we have a head of track, Jace Davis. His son rides in the show, and I asked him about what Brooksy's like to work with, and this is what he wrote. Brooksy is a hard shell to crack. The big fella, grumpy and whinging sometimes, but what lies underneath is a smart and intelligent man. He would give you the shirt off his back. Someone that didn't need to, but taught me all the tricks of setting up a course, perfecting the setup, and all that goes with a live show. Someone that I have a huge amount of respect for. Pretty cool, eh? It's just kind of almost mirrors what you two just said.
Yeah, that sums it up perfectly.
Trevor Brooks, the friend. Quirky, who's Trevor Brooks, the friend, outside of work? And
yeah, well, so I guess that's the thing too. Whilst we were touring and working together, we also spent a lot of time, Brooksy and I at his place, because outside of the shows, we were always doing work at his place. There was always ramps to be built, and Brooksy was always working on the next thing and designing the next thing. So I was around Brooksy and his family for a lot of years there. Like we sat around his kitchen table and shared meals and that. His mum would be out helping us paint plywood on ramps and things, and that it was, and full credit to his family, like the support they've given him, as well throughout all those years, and yeah, like whether it was working or just hanging out there together, we'd spend hours in Brooksy's shed, probably too many hours just drinking beers and trying to solve the world's problems and our own problems, there was lots of good times, lots of tough times that we went through over the years, like whether it be work or personal life or, but we always just bounced off each other and, like he was always there, like, yeah, for anything.
Curry, what about Trev as your friend, not as your boss and work colleague? I know you guys, you did a lot of your friendship stuff whilst on tour and not working, but like what Trev the friend, explain Trev the friend.
There was this degree of separation between work and friendship, but at the same time, friendship went hand in hand with work. Brooksy the boss and Brooksy the friend were two different people, but the same. And it's hard to describe, but he was always there for me as a boss, but he's always also really there as a mate. Sort of what Quirky said, you go to his house to work and you're in, with the family and Louise and the kids were just as much a part of everything that we did, and I don't know, look, he was very generous. He was very caring. And when you get to know Trevor as more than a boss, he is the complete package. And I don't know, it's just like once you're accepted by Trev and you accept that Trev basically knows everything. And I mean that in the smartest way. Trev knows everything. So if you're going to question something Trev says, you better be bloody right. And I'll tell you what, I think I might have beat him once. I'm not sure. I can't remember. And Trevor would probably say I never did because it wasn't a fucking easy thing to do.
We talk about the good times and the tough times. One thing, Quirky, we spoke about yesterday in our kind of pre-production meeting, believe it or not, I do research and prepare for these things. Listeners might dispute that, but we'll see how we go.
I say not just winging it like you used to always do, Brownie.
Yeah. Hey, this isn't the roasting of me yet, all right?
Right.
All right. That can come later. I think probably one of the worst times in our kind of collective careers was the 2006 East Coast Carnage tour of Crusty Demons, and we're down in Tasmania. Quirky, you were running transport and logistics, and we had that horrific accident that claimed the truck driver Bubsy, your best mate's life. How, like, obviously that is an horrific time, but talk to me about what kind of Trev did, your memories of that, and how kind of Trev stepped in to kind of, do what needed to be done.
Yeah, no, you're right, mate. That was a massive thing that happened, and you were saying, about Brooksy as a friend, like he was there for that, and but more than that, like, to this day, I probably still fully don't know all the things that Brooksy did in that time because, obviously I was dealing with a lot and I had that transport contract that, I was supposed to be taken care of. I sort of pretty much, had to step away there for a little bit and, Brooksy just stepped in and the transport happened. And once again, it was that, never say never, never fail attitude that Brooksy had the trucks and the equipment sorted and, it to make the show go ahead, the next show and that, and that allowed me to be able to, do what I needed to do to be able to go to a funeral and grieve and all that. So, yeah, no, just unbelievable in like, and that is classic Brooksy, just when the chips are down, you know what I mean? Like he's there. So, yep.
What's your memories of that time, Trev? I know not great, but...
No, definitely not great, but I just remember everyone going, it's all over, not tour's done, and some bloke, my computers are all wrecked. I'm like, whatever, dude.
Bikes are gone, the show floor's gone.
Yeah, pull your big boy pants, put your big boy pants on, and let's move on. And I had Mike, our boss, and Andy, I think too, the CEO, whatever he would have been, and we were all having a meet in the hotel that afternoon, and they rang me, and I just went out back and spoke to them. I said, you know, you need to tell everyone to pull their heads in. We don't need ticket machines. We can get bikes. We can do this. We can do that. You know, the show, and they go, well, so the show will go on. And it went from there. Unfortunately, we had to go the next day to salvage what we could off from the truck. We had quick transport helped out. The dudes on the ferry helped. It was, yeah, it was just I don't know, it's sort of hard.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Trev.
Yeah,
That
you're
is-
right.
It's not. It's. I think it's an important part of the story of Trevor Brooks, because you were the one who kind of rallied the troops. And, you know, we in show business, unfortunately, like we see it still to this day, if a rider gets injured and he's in hospital, like we just have to leave him. Like if someone can stay behind, it's just that is business. And what is crazy about, you know, like how horrific that those scenes were, the marvel of doing a show a week later in a regional, I think maybe Wangaratta or something like that. And then the following week, Mount fact check, not disputing. And then we got to go back to Ballarat, your guys' hometown. I get kind of goosebumps, not in a good way, thinking about that was the first real experience for me in tragedy. Like I'd been around death, like, but that's grandparents dying and stuff like that. But like full blown just tragedy. And then so we get through that tour, and then I think we did New Zealand, the Kiwi Carnage tour. Yeah, go
Just before you move on there, Brownie, that is exactly it, right? So there's the real picture of Brooksy. You know what I mean? Like there's that leader, there's that guy that, you know, brought everyone together, you know, had that, you know, the show must go on attitude, taught us all that in that time. You know what I mean? It was like, yes, we were going through a lot. Everyone had their own focus. So like Brooksy said, promoters and things were worried about shows and tickets and things and that. But Brooksy was the calm head. He was the smarts behind it all that said, listen, we can do this. Let's pull it together and let's get it done. You know, like this is how it happens. This is how it works. And that's been his attitude all the way through with touring shows and that. It's like no matter what happens, the show will go on. Like, and that's that work ethic, and that's why he commands the respect that he does of all us guys that ever worked for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Quirky, I just lived this last October. I was doing Hot Wheels monster trucks over in New Zealand, and of course I enlisted Trev to lead those massive dirt tracks that needed to be built in 3 stadium shows. And, you know, colour me shocked that it rained basically the whole 3 weeks we were in New Zealand, and we had the cancellation insurance, and we were standing there on the barrel. We had a roof on one of the stadiums, but 2 outdoors in Wellington and Eden Park. And I was resigned to the fact that we weren't going to get either of those shows off. But Trevor Brooks was literally driving around dirt pits and quarries, and he found what needed to be done and got those two shows done. And, you know, it's crazy to think that 20 years and then 20 years before that, he was just doing the same thing, just making the impossible.
Yep.
And it happened again, Trev, in 2007, the West Coast Carnage Tour, right?
Yeah.
The kangaroo.
We can laugh about that one.
We can laugh about that one. Not the poor kangaroo who met an untimely fate.
The goat.
Sorry.
Everyone thinks you're taking a piss when you say, "Oh, get a goat," you know. And Quirky would be interested in this, and Kerry for that matter. So Josh, who runs Freestyle Kingsley, Brownie and I both work with this story popped up the other day, and he's like, "Oh, I hired a truck off Oryx, and every time they all ever talk about, you know, the trucks." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's a bit unfortunate, but it is what it is." And I said, "Oh, you know, the one that hit a goat." He goes, "What do you mean hit a goat?" I said, "He hit a goat in a B double, and the truck caught on fire." He goes, and I said, "You're actually to blame for that, because I believe there was bolts missing out of the bull bar." And he goes, "Oh, I didn't know that." And anyways, as soon as you mention goat, everyone just pisses themselves laughing. They breed big goats out there in Kalgoorlie, apparently.
But that was another time, right? You had to pull a whole new show set together in a couple of days.
Pretty much, but it was, I don't know, we'd had practice, unfortunately, but it wasn't too hard. We were lucky we weren't going to a major ground in Kalgoorlie. We were building another set for the Cap City tour. Quirky and I and
Your
Brooksy
mum?
No, we're in Perth. We're in Perth. We're in the Burswood Dome at the time. And I think we were actually on the way to a certain entertainment centre that night. And we got the phone call. The truck's on fire. Kerry's like, what? He goes, yeah, it was Brownie driving. The truck's on fire. I said, well, are you safe? Just get out, leave it, whatever, you know. And then I said, can I ring Grant? Can I ring Grant? Grant was our production manager at the time. And I rang him and said, oh, we just had another truck burn down. He's going, you kidding, no? I wish it was. Anyway, we went to work and we were lucky enough, as I say, it wasn't a full-on venue. It was just like a showgrounds or whatever, so we didn't have to protect the ground too much. We've worked it out. We had enough floor and less. We had enough this, and basically I think all we had to do was get bikes.
Yeah.
We had we were all scrambling around getting mainly all Hondas back then, but just got all new bikes and away it went. So it wasn't too hard, but I know the truck, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the truck went for 4 days, Quirky, is that right? With the rubber?
Yeah, the rubber that was on the rubber floor matting, and that just they couldn't extinguish it. I think it kept reigniting. The CFA had to keep going back out to it and putting it out. So, but there again, there's that Brooksy. That truck, we lost all that equipment, and we're having beers and thinking to ourselves, right, well, that's the show done. And that Brooksy just goes straight into that mindset of, and he starts calculating what was on that truck, but what do we need and what have we actually got? And, before you knew it, he'd drawn up revised floor plans and track maps and ramp and that. And he's like, well, here's the show we can do. So let's do it.
I think I threw you in the deep end. I had to finish building the set. So I was packing a truck or a container or whatever to go from Perth to Brisbane because we started at Cap City a week or 2 weeks later. I threw Quirky in the deep end and go, there you go, this will work. I'll see you Thursday night or even Friday night. I flew in, I think. But as I say, we were lucky. Once again, got a good group of people around here. Anything can happen. But we were lucky. If it had been a major stadium, we wouldn't have been able to do the show. I think we hired carpets in the local hire company. Got away with it that way.
So these two horrific things happen, and then Kerry, you're kind of thrown into the mix. Did you wonder? You would have obviously heard both of those stories. Did you wonder what the fuck you were signing up for?
No, not at all. The funny thing about the goat is that I was mates with Brownie, and Brownie sent me a video message, and back then video messages weren't that common. It's not like today, and of a truck burning, and I'm like, what's going on here, mate?
It's like 3 megapixels.
And he wouldn't answer the phone, and then he goes, oh yeah, I'm here to go. Like Brownie does, everything's just matter of fact, It's just like, well, here to go, and they only had 1/2-inch bolts in the bull bar, and the bull bar went off, hit the tank, sparked, and she just went up. And I'm like, well, that's no bloody good. But are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. But look, I don't know. I got asked to go and do it. For me, it was my wife goes. I said to her, because I had been doing this day for years and years, and I'd just got a local job, and she goes, just go and when are you going to get an opportunity like this again? And so I did, and I never even thought about that part of it. But yeah, it was and it was a joy from day one. I won't say it wasn't hard at times, but I tell you what, it definitely made me who I am today. It toughened me up a bit because I didn't know how easy I had it.
So we get to, Trev, we get to the 2009 Crusty Tour, and we basically have the civil war between Crusty and Nitro. Most people were forced into choosing a side. What's your recollection of that time in 2009 and what you decided to do?
Well, I did get the sack, I believe. Didn't I, Kerr?
That was Supercross.
Yeah, but it was because of Nitro.
Which time, Brooksy? Which time?
Yeah. No, anyway, that's moved over. And my biggest problem with going from Krusty's to Nitro was I didn't know what was expected of the set and everything. And so I kind of tried to take a little bit of that step, which I did. And then, well, we did Krusty's as well that year as well, to be honest. So I was meant.
I'll jump in there, Brooksy. And there's another thing most people wouldn't know either, Brownie, is that, there was always multiple tours and multiple gigs going on. Brooksy, he had fingers in pies everywhere. He, and that came from the respect and that he had with the venues in Australia. He was known that well amongst all the premier stadiums and venues. It was pretty much a case of if you didn't have Brooksy on board your gig, you weren't getting to use their venue. And so we were doing events all across Australia at different times, but Brooksy was juggling them all and managing it all.
Yeah. I actually, just before you guys got on the recording here, I said the exact same thing. Like, I do a lot of venue booking now, and my ace up my sleeve is always dropping Trevor Brooks's name. Like, if they have concerns about their turf or their stadium arena floor, I use the Trevor Brooks card, and those concerns and anxiety are alleviated almost instantly. So Nitro gathers some momentum. Crusty kind of pitters out, not done well. We're not going to get into the politics of that, but we kind of figure out pretty quickly, Trev, that Nitro is going to be much bigger than Australia and New Zealand. Those first couple of tours. We're going to talk more about the show itself with Bilko a bit later on, but like kind of behind the scenes, that when Nitro started in 2010, and if you remember, and you guys, all four of us, we'd come from a very experienced live event space, but then the other side, the Godfreys and the Pastranas and the BMX guys, they'd basically never done a live event. So they were X Games medalists and whatnot, but they'd never been in a fully choreographed show. The chaos of how organised the dirt bikes were, Trev, which is primarily what you were looking after, but you were also a big help on the Gigantor side. What's your memories of that kind of chaos in 2010? I think if you guys remember, the first ever Nitro show went for about 4 hours.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty tough, as I said. The expectation that everyone else had in their head of how everything should work, as into how it does work, was not part. So there was kids on BMX going left, right, and centre, and it was chaos. It was full chaos, but it took by the end of the tour, I think we had it down pat, but it took a while. It definitely took a while.
There's one of those legendary scenes on the first or second day of practice. The Zorb comes out and Dove hits it with the ATV and breaks the bloke's ankle with the car. It was a literal circus. But we did Cap City 2010, then went to New Zealand, and that's when I think we probably all knew, holy shit, what is this thing and how could it be? Curry, so now you're all of a sudden you're coming to New Zealand. I think you've done a Crusty New Zealand, but that Nitro Circus 2011. What's your recollection of that time and how much fun was had?
Oh, look, the funny thing was that, previous to Krusty's, I'd never been on a plane. Never even wanted to go on a plane. And I remember the first plane I ever got on was an Air New Zealand 747 to go to New Zealand. And I met Quirky over in Auckland. We were over there to pack the trucks up. And then, I don't know, I've gone back to Krusty's, but I'll go move forward. But yeah, and I remember we had to fly to Nelson or back from Nelson, and Quirky and I go to the airport, and I look out the window to see this turboprop plane. And I said, is that the plane we're going on? And he goes, yeah. And I said, no, we did big planes, mate. Quirky goes, we better get used to it because you got to feel this tour. So that was me first ever thing. I never aspired to go overseas. And I'll tell you, I've been to so many countries as these people and enjoyed every minute of it. But yeah, look, the first Nitro in New Zealand, it was a real eye-opener. The Kiwis just love it. They did. They still love it. And in the form that it was back then, because everything just got done right. It was such a joy, and everybody, it didn't matter what was happening, the Kiwis loved it. Yeah. So that's good. The same in Australia, the cult following that they got all of a sudden, it was just like that, bang,
All right, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off here. Vegas 2011. We finished Australian New Zealand stadium shows, and we're all sent to Vegas for the one-off Nitro Circus show at the MGM Grand, which is being filmed for the 3D movie. I'll let you guys fill in the blanks if you want to start, Quirky. It was a good time. Some of us may have had too good a time.
Kerry and I had to talk Quirky into coming.
Wow.
Quirky wasn't going. So to me, that's right, isn't it, Kerry?
Well,
He'd retired.
There wasn't a lot of talking him into the Vegas one. It was more so the European one. But,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, look, Vegas, we still had to talk because he was done to her, and he and then he goes, "Oh, it's Vegas, I'll go." And we went over to do practice at Parla, wasn't it, Parla?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we had I think 2 weeks there prior to the show, and like it was so funny. It was just like. I suppose to sum it up, like we're staying at one of the Indian casinos, and Trevor's main aim in the morning was to order his breakfast without the waitress asking him, "Would you like your eggs?" Something like he tried to cover everything. So he'd go, "All right, I want my toast, I want this toast, I want that, I want the eggs like this," and then if she didn't come back with, that was our competition, wasn't it? If she didn't come back with, "Would you like this?" then you won for the day. So, look. But then going to Vegas, I mean, look, that was crazy. I mean, for me, driving the fog, people criticising me for doing this and doing that, and we were just trying to get our job done. I remember one of the Americans coming and was yelling at me, and Trev came up and you talk to my blokes like that, you can get out, and the bloke's like, "Oh yeah." And Trevor, you do you are. Like,
I give a fuck who you are.
Yeah, that's right. And the bloke actually came up and apologised because Trevor told him to later on. I was just doing my job, but that was the protection you were given by Trev. If you were doing a good job, he backed you all the way, didn't he, Quirky?
Yeah, mate. No, he always had your back, but that was Vegas is a good example of work hard, play hard. That was the motto. But it didn't matter how hard you played; you had to be able to back it up with work. And Vegas might have got a little bit out of control, Brownie. I do recall workshopping some ideas with you early hours of the morning on how you were going to explore.
After the morning after. Let me set the table for this rinsing. Like, this is probably the lowest moment of my career. I've always prided myself on which a lot of it I learned from Trev. Party hard, work harder. But this was one time I partied harder and hardly worked. I got into Vegas a couple of days after everyone because I had some visa complications. And so everyone had got the big party out of their system before I arrived. I came in red hot and didn't do much sleeping for 3 or 4 days. And a fun fact, I have no recollection of that show. Like, I've got a pretty good memory as well. And I actually quickly fact-checked it to make sure it was when Trav proposed to Lindsay, because I don't actually remember that. And I lost my backpack, my phone, and I checked out of the hotel, but we had like 12 hours to kill, and we were at that bar again. I don't really remember much, but I do remember going back and forth to a couple of rooms. And
I've got a story about the room.
What? Yeah. Okay, go.
Well, so
potato's the safe word.
Oh, no, that's Bilko's safe word. No, well, when Kylie and I had my wife over there, and we were sort of partied down, so we went with the guys on this particular night. Brandy had to come down and get a set of keys that he needed for the next day. He was sent down by the guys. So he come down to my room and knocks on the door, and he come in, and Kylie's in bed, and I just got up, and answered the door. And so he comes in the room and he looks at me while he goes, "I'm not normally like this." And Kylie's like, "No, that's all right." And anyway, I fumbled through and found the keys, give it to him, and he looks at me and he goes, "Do you know what room I'm in?" And I go, "What do you mean? You're in this room, you're in my room." No, what room I come from? I said, "No idea, mate." And so we're trying to ring people to find out where he had to go back to.
Yeah, because I lost my phone. And I put me luggage at the concierge, and 12 hours later I came back to get it, and I'd lost me bag ticket. I'm like, it's a black OGO bag. Can you just find it for me? I think my laptop's in there. He's like, "I can't just find your bag." And he's like, well, can I come in and look at it? And I remember so vividly, I got into the MGM Grand luggage room, and I shit you not, there was luggage as far as the eye could see, and I was not seeing very well. And I had to find that bag, and then I finally got my computer, which I'd lost, which was in my bag where I put it, shock horror, and I didn't do my job of updating the website, and I honestly thought I was getting on that plane home to be fired. So it was not me. I can laugh about it now, but yeah, it was a great day. I spent that whole day after the day after. I think it was just the track crew, me and maybe Steve Minnie. So it was just a small little party crew. Shane Serena was there, definitely, probably Sharpie, but it's not my finest hour that. Or finest 72 hours.
Well, as I say, yeah, that was my recollection of you coming in and just saying, well, that's it. My job's done. I'm fucked. I'm going to be fired. I've missed the plane. Pyro's going to sack me. It's all over. I'm done for. And I'm like, no, mate. Let's just workshop this. How can we get through this? You know, like, I'm like, and it's sort of, I reckon it ended up sounding a bit like the script of The Hangover we came up with. Yeah.
You didn't have a tiger rug in your room as well, didn't you?
There was a picture of a lion on the wall in the motel room, and at one point Brownie thought it was coming off the wall at him, that it was alive.
I'm not in a position to confirm or deny that. I am in a position to say I don't remember that. I believe it to be true. So we survived Vegas. I keep my job. Nitro Circus Europe 2012. That was, if we thought we were balling in Vegas, getting on those tour buses, and this is probably kind of where I want to just about close it with you guys talking about Trev, like how hard in 2012 and 2013, like the life we lived on those tour buses for, I think, 6 weeks and 4 weeks. And I still to this day, because I'm now at an age I'm only a little bit younger than you guys, but I'm at an age that you guys were back then 15 years ago. And I think back now, like how you guys burnt the candle at both ends. And, it goes back to that party hard, work harder, because that was how Trev led you guys. How much fun, but how draining was those tour buses? Were you bus 12?
2. We're always 2.
Always 2.
Yep. Always 2.
First ones to work, last ones to leave.
New buses on wheels too, wasn't
it? Yeah, new rules on buses. Yeah, something like that, yeah. But look, Quirky for a start didn't want to come on that tour. It was funny. That was the one we had to talk him into, Trev, remember?
Yeah.
I remember ringing him up and I've gone, Michael, I've looked at the schedule. It's not going to be that bad. We're going to have plenty of time for fun. So come on. We really want you to come with us. And he begrudgingly did. And all through the tour, he kept looking at me when things were tough, and he'd go, yeah, I've looked at the schedule and it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
It was horrendous.
Yeah, we did it, and that was the thing. At that stage, I was done. I was burnt out. I was over the touring and that. But they kept convincing me to come back for one more Johnny Farnham style, just one more tour.
One more, you gotta have one more.
But that was next level, those European tours on the tour buses. Like you say, first into the venues, last out, a couple of hours sleep in a bed on a bus on the highway to the next show was, horrendous.
Remember, you used to have your shopping list, and the caterers would you'd hand you list of needs for the bus for the next night. They'd restock. What I can only imagine, what was Brooksy's list? Was it cherry ripes, milk, beer, ouzo?
Yeah.
No, wasn't much ouzo involved, but no, we used to steal the milk from catering anyway, so that was all good. But that was some good times. I mean, there's 12, 14 alpha males all living on a bus together, and I don't think there was ever a blue, you know what I mean? Like, we were living out each other's pockets, back pockets, working hard.
I think
hard and got on.
Over those kind of 4 years of bus touring that we did, I think across Europe and North America, the track crew bus was famous for the only bus that never had anyone want to leave it and never had any drama. Like every other bus, there was buses I were on that people were leaving because of my antics. I know that for a fact. But your bus, like, you'd you'd finish work at midnight, you'd drive 4 to 6 hours to the next country and city, and you guys would have the option to either get some sleep or have a drink and a good time, and you usually chose the latter. And then you'd turn up and, by the time we woke up and got out of our bunks in the bed, the show set was built. It's just incredible what you guys did. And I think now, with a bit more age and wisdom, like I just marvel at that even more now with the benefit of retrospect, I think.
Yeah, it was
We're pretty
good.
amazing, weren't we?
Yeah. I mean,
Simple.
we've got scaffold who are known for, tough, and, everyone just got on, like Geezer, Swanee, Kimmy Lowe. I could keep naming them all.
Yeah, and Stu.
Fit it in.
Yeah,
Stu in, fit it in. They were on our bus sometimes.
And
I
think it kind of goes full circle here because, Brooksy, that was the environment you cultivated as a boss and a leader and as a friend. And I think, what I really, when I first asked Curry to do this last week, his immediate response via text was, I would do absolute anything for that man. And, I think that is true still to this day, that everyone that's kind of had the pleasure of working with and for you kind of feels that way about you.
Yeah, well, that's good.
I've always known that though, Trev, and it goes the same work, like he's both, for me, like he's a way up there. And then, bloody hell, I mean, I get you.
Yeah, and there's a point right there. A lot of people say promoters and production managers and things. They probably don't get Brooksy fully to begin with, and probably never do. Because they weren't always down in the trenches with him. But if they actually did get Brooksy, they would realise that he was always there for the cause. He was never there for his own personal gain or financial gain or anything, you know what I mean? Like, quite the opposite, you know what I mean? He was always there for the purpose, and if they had to just realised that sometimes instead of, there was always that, quite often there were issues where, because Brooksy came across the way he did, he'd rough people up and they'd take offence to it and they'd want to sack him, but really, if they truly understood him, they'd know that he was always there for the greater good and for the purpose.
I used to laugh when we'd go into these whatever city or town we were going to, and the venue would ask for a tour radio so they can listen to what we're up to. And the first thing Brandon, the production manager, would go, absolutely fucking not. You will not be hearing what goes on the radio chat. I used to be petrified to hit the talk button on that radio because between the lot of you, Curry and Brooksy were the ringleaders of just mocking.
Do you remember we used to sign off every time, like once we got to a point, it was 3-2-3-2, and it was mainly to Cam. Remember, Brooksy would go, yeah, no worries, Cam, 3-2-3-2, and Cam comes up to me and he goes, what does 3-2-3-2 mean? Oh, it's just something we say at the end, Cam,
Yeah.
But it basically meant so there was the phonetics on the telephone. If you go 3-2-3-2, it was EADC.
Now I've got to change all my PIN numbers, Kerry.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
So we're going to wrap here. So Quirky, I think he dips out of touring after 16 years of doing it with Trev, which again is testament to Trev doing this 39 years later. We fast forward a few years to 2019, and Curry and Trev, we've spoken about this a lot, and we're not in the kind of business of really shitting on anyone or anything, but the Nitro relationship comes to an end in New Zealand in 2019 for you guys, and the politics I won't get into, but it almost went full circle, Curry, because you got offered a job on that 2020 tour, and because Trevor Nitro had agreed to part ways, you were loyal to the man who was loyal to you, and you passed up that opportunity?
Well, what actually happened was I decided I didn't want to tour him. I was doing a Quirky. And so I was going to finish up anyway, but then they asked me if I'd still do the transport in Australia, which we were doing the transport back then, with me and some subbies. And so they asked me if I'd still do the transport, and I said, yeah, no problem. And then, look, how it happened. And then obviously the rest of it happened. And there was no way I was ever going to go work for him. I actually did get offered to come back as a track crew, and I said, no, I won't. I'm loyal to the man, you know, like, you know, and I couldn't imagine doing it without him. I don't think I could.
Yeah, it was a really awful time, that 2019 tour, and I remember it was just a tinderbox, and it was and I was not healthy either back then, and I was dealing with all my own demons, and I remember I'd had a massive bender the night before, and so I was hiding in my hotel room, and I get a phone call. And I'm actually quite flattered by this phone call because I didn't fact check it, but I'm pretty sure it was Petey, the social media wizard. And he's like, Curry and Trevor are a bit out of control down in the hotel bar. We think you're the only person who might be able to get them into their rooms to protect them from themselves. And sure enough, I come down and Neil Kerr, and he's not being an arsehole, but he's just like, he's prepared to throw a table through a window just for
I had it over my head, didn't I?
Bit of a laugh. Like, he's ready to launch his table, and he's not in a violent, malicious way. It was out, and Trev was doing the. I'm like, oh God. So I'm like, I'm sober. I'm like, boys, it's been a big day. I think you went fishing during the day, so you'd been drinking all day.
We all bagged out.
Yeah, and then so I was like, yeah, Kerry, we'll get you to the room. No dramas. Sleep it off. We'll just get back to work tomorrow. And I did the same with Trev. He kept popping out. He was like, Trev's a real life Peter Pan. Like, as smart and wise he is, he's also the bloke who's never grown up, like when it comes to having a good time. And he kept sneaking down. He's like, just going for a banger. Just going for a banger.
Yeah, if they got him a room with a balcony, that wouldn't happen. But I remember having that table up above my head. And if you had said to me, don't throw that, Kerry, up the front. But you said to me, you said, do you really want to do that, Kerry? And I'm like, I looked at you like, no, well, I don't. I put it down. And then I went up to my room, threw up everywhere, and woke up next morning and went to work. Then I got the story about Trev coming down, and I'm like, Trev.
I think that was the end for Trev and I for a couple of years. I ended up, Nitro and the world shut down with COVID, like less than 12 months after that kind of tour. So Nitro didn't have to survive for too long without Trev. And then, I left, hadn't done a show there in 2 years. And then when I started back up at Freestyle Kings in 2023, like getting to work with Trev again was, it was for me, it was probably, I thought not that I would never see him again, but I got to work with him again and have spent the last 3 years on a few different projects. And, I'm just so... I think I appreciate him a lot more now than what I did back then because I know a lot more now. And to Jace Davis' point early, like the amount of things Trev's taught me, and not just about business, like about life and, being a dad and being a leader, I think, and, being there in the hard times. So with that being said, Trev, I think I might give Curry and Quirky an opportunity to say a final word, and then we'll say goodbye to them. Curry, you go and give us what is Trevor Brooks' legacy? Right, he's obviously not dead. He's old, but he's not dead. What's the Trevor Brooks legacy in your eyes? Neil.
My friend. And shit, I'm going to tear up here if I'm not careful. But anyway, he's always been there for me. He's always been fair with me. And he's always been my mate since the day I cracked the nut. And I'll be forever grateful. We've had some really hard discussions. We've had some easy discussions. And to sum it up, he's the fucking best. There's not many people that have had such an influence for me. So that's yeah.
I love seeing a hard man like Neil Kerr get emotional, and
I'm definitely not hard.
Yeah,
big sook.
Quirky, give me a parting words and the legacy of Trev and his influence on you.
Yeah, well, as we touched on earlier, as I say, he took me under his wing early on and spent a lot of time working and being around Brooksy and his family. And he shaped my life in lots of different ways. And so, well, my wife would tell you now that she hates the perfectionism in me, and that all comes from Brooksy. As I say, as far as Brooksy goes on a work level, the industry that he's in and like that he's still in, like amazing amazingly. As I said, I burnt out and I had to get out, but Brooksy's still there and he's still doing it. And he's, like I say, that what he's done for that industry and continues to do is just unbelievable. And yeah, like I say, from the mate side of things, we don't get to catch up very often these days. Our lives are, a bit different and a bit busy, but we'll have to do it again soon. Like, it's exactly that. It's like I could pick up the phone to Brooksy at any time, and it's just like we'd spoken yesterday. That's just still that close bond that we have, and you always know he's there, whether it's on a personal level or a professional level. He's just that one constant that's always been there, So
that's beautiful. Yeah. Trev's, give us a parting word about Curry and Quirky before we send them on their way.
I'll sum it up like this: if you're a general in the army, you're only as good as your troops. So I'm more than honoured to have these boys behind me over the years and in the future.
I'm doing a heart. I think you guys are doing a different symbol, but
yeah.
Well, it's actually like this, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah.
Thank you, mates. I'll talk to you.
See you, boys. Thank you.
Yeah. We've just started in our busy time. Hey, Brownie.
Hey, Louise. How you going?
This is Brooksy's better half.
Yeah.
The crazy one. I think you've humbled him a little bit.
Listen, we got tears out of him twice. It was never the intention. Yes, it was really cool, Lou, to see Trev. When I wanted to do this podcast, I think it was really important to tell Trev's story right. And some of the people who know him best outside of his family are Quirky, Curry, and now Dack. So yeah, really humbled by that. It's just really emotional stuff, and the tough old nut is a big softie. We know that, but lots of people don't.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be hanging around if he was as tough as what he portrays. That's for sure. So, Dacky, just make sure you keep it PG, okay? Yeah.
We brought up the hormone. Always said me hormone.
Menopause.
You're going through menopause, yeah, right.
Yeah, menopause. No, we brought up a bad part of touring life, and we lost one of our mates in the truck.
Yeah, right.
And then you got emotional talking about the boys as well, which is really sweet, Trev.
Oh,
the next part of the Trevor Brooks This Is Your Life podcast episode, we've got one of his great mates from the racing world, a legend in his own right, an Australian Motorcycling Hall of Fame member, the principal for CDR Racing Team for 32 years, I think, if my research is correct. Craig Dack, a legend of the motorsport world. Welcome to Behind the Bars, and thank you for taking the time to come and talk Trevor Brooks with us.
My pleasure. Couldn't be happier doing it with a better bloke.
When I started my research for the Trevor Brooks episode, I knew Craig Dack and Trevor Brooks had a long-term relationship. I found some old photos, and I said to Todd, do you reckon? Do you know Craig Dack well? Do you reckon you could introduce me to him? Because I was going to try and do it without Trev knowing. And Todd writes back, Dack is my godfather. So that's setting the table right now about how close you guys were and are still to this day. So I've asked everyone, Dacker, first time meeting Trev and first impressions. What's your memory of that? I know we're going back a while.
Well, I'm glad Brooksy's here because my memory gets a bit shot with that sort of stuff, and it's so long ago, but he might have a different version of me. But yeah, like you said, I was the best man at Brooksy's wedding. I'll just work backwards a little bit. And I would say he's probably my best mate. We've actually, over the course of the 40-odd years that we've known each other, our lives have sort of gone a little bit different, not too much. But every time we catch up, it feels like it did back in 1985. Yeah. I think, Brooksy, the first time we met, I signed a contract with Honda. I'm originally from New South Wales, and I signed a contract with Honda in 1986, and I had to move down to Victoria. And I think that's when we first met, Brooksy, was it? Or did we meet before that?
You're like 2 years off, right?
Okay.
Don't worry, Dacko, he's been fact-checking all day.
I signed up with Gawley to go to America in 84.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right. But our friendship really started when I moved to Victoria, because the girl I was with at the time, Jodie. So Jodie and Louise, Brooksy and I became a really close friends. So they were my first real close friends in Victoria. So that's how it all started.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
What's your
yeah,
recollections,
I
Trev?
remember 84. I remember you crashed at Broadford on your 125, and I went down because we'd been talking because we're going to America later on that year or the following year, whatever. I remember straight out of a comedy show, I was leaning down to see if you're all right, and I was kneeling on it. They give you oxygen, and I was kneeling on the oxygen nose.
When I had that crash at Broadford,
Down the bottom. Yeah, down the bottom there. Yeah. So I went running down, and it's kind of funny. I remember Hershey, God rest his soul, was like, "Get off the thing!" Oh shit, sorry, bro. Yeah, that's one of my first memories. But anyway, and then we moved on and went to America, and that was some good times right there. But yeah, and then we, as you say, you signed up with Honda and kicked off from there. So there's been a good friendship.
What was your first impressions of Trev? Like you meet him, was he like he's still racing, privateer, probably? I mean this in the most respectful way. Not as good as a racer as you were, like a couple of years younger, but you were elite talent, and Trev was probably slightly below elite talent.
well, yeah, I guess, yeah, I sort of made it to the top, and Brooksy was certainly one of the top Victorian state riders, but he was a respected national rider too. And I think, on any given good day in a national championship, his ability on the bike could get him in the top 5 all day long if he put it all together.
Yeah.
Would that be right, Brooksy?
No, I said exactly the same thing before, Craig.
Yeah, right.
And I just said, yeah, believe it or not, I used to get the nerves and stuff. I lined up at a Mr. Motocross, nerves would take over, but the following weekend I could probably run with the top 3 or 4, So
that's right.
Yeah.
I found that.
But I remember this when I first moved to Victoria. I think it was actually the very first race I did on Honda out at Outram there, over in Gippsland.
I know where you go.
And then I think we're on 5. Brooksy's on a 500. I went out this paddock before the race to warm up our bikes, and we're doing sort of, going through the gearbox up and down this paddock. And there was this farmer's electric fence that he put up, one of those mobile electric fences. And Brooksy's coming down opposite way to me at Wart 5 on this KX 500. And I'm yelling out, like, stop, stop, stop. I knew he didn't see the electric fence, and he got within about 20 metres of it and saw it. So he's just hit the back brake, laid the bike down and slid straight into this electric fence. And I've ridden up to it. There's sparks and all that going off everywhere. That was a funny memory. I mean, we could go all day about funny memories. Brooksy, the things that Brooksy and I have done over the years, it's mind-boggling, the fun that we've had. And Brooksy, he was, even through his racing days and when he did the tracks and all that, he became the industry comic, really. He was the Dave Hughes of the industry, and he was always good for a joke.
So there's one for Brownie, because I'm kind of known in the later years. I'm known as a grumpy old Brooksy, but back then,
well, I always say to people when I get to the race, is Brooksy grumpy? And they go, yep. I said, well, if he's grumpy, happy.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. I think it's his grumpiness is almost his love language, right? Like that's part of the persona, and that's why sometimes, particularly young and new people in the industry are taken aback by it. But those who know Trev, like if he's woken up cranky, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it with Trevor, when you go to those events and particularly stadiums, he takes on everything, Brooksy. Like, he's a very conscientious person, and he's very proud of the work he does. And I know when he was doing the freestyle thing, he was very, very conscious of the safety for the riders. So he puts a lot of weight on his shoulders. And those venues, they're not easy to manage, with all the work cover issues. And so Brooksy doesn't just build the tracks, or didn't just build the freestyle ramps or whatever, which he can build a freestyle ramp. He's very talented with his hands, Boilermaker by trade, very smart guy with that. But managing those venues and all the going on, he takes all that on board. And he's a real asset to the whatever person's got him working for him. He takes it all on board.
Yeah, it's a really good summary that I mentioned to the previous guest, Dacker. Like I do a lot of venue bookings in my current role, and I use, if there's any wavering doubt about what I can do at that venue, I say Trevor Brooks's name, and that is alleviated straight away. When you kind of go on to have a really successful racing career, I think multiple Mr. Motocrosses, but Trev's career kind of ends, but then you see him on the other side in this track building. How cool was it to have your best mate still kind of there at those races, and getting to share that together?
Special. Yeah, we start off our relationship as friends and competitors, but more friends than competitors. And then I stopped riding, he stopped riding, but we stayed in the industry, and we carried on for another 2 decades or something side by side. You know, I was running the race team, he was building the tracks, and you know, we would catch up all the time. I lived with him for a little while when I was in between relationships, and you know, I remember some of the stories when his dad owned the Brown Hill pub in Ballarat, and I used to go over there and spend some time with him. And we used to, I remember this one day, we went down to the local hardware and bought these glasses that had lights on them. And at night time, because, you know, Ballarat's full of old mine shaft, gold mine shafts. And at night time, about 10 o'clock at night, I think we might have had a couple of beers actually. We've gone out into the hills, into the bush, and they used to have these old cars bodies like blocking up mine shafts. So we got this big log and leave it up this old car and chopped it. We went down into this mine shaft, and we travelled for felt like kilometres underground in tunnels half the size of us, all through, you know, with these lights on. So, yeah, we've done, that's just a like snapshot of like the relationship that we have or had. You know, we're just always doing something crazy.
Yeah, we're probably lucky they didn't have phones. I mean, I know that's a cliche. Some of the shit we got up to. Anyway.
I've described Brooksy as kind of a Peter Pan-like character, because still to this day, Dack, I know we worked together in the SuperX years when my company was the promoter of that, but in my later years, I'm in the action sports world again, and getting to travel. Only 2 weeks ago, we drove from Mackay to Rockhampton, and it was a full circle moment because I was driving, Trev was in the front seat, and your godson Toddy was in the back seat with the rest of the track crew watching the motocross on an iPhone. So I think it was really special to share that with Trev, and I think you, Dacker, might appreciate it more than most, that, you know, the touring life is grueling, and the fact that Trev gets to do that with your godson and his son is pretty mad.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, great. It's really good to see Todd and Brooksy work together like that, father and son show. It's really, really good. And now the industry, the travel thing, yeah, it does get hard. I got my lifestyle at the moment. When I was doing World Supercross, the last couple of years, it got pretty crazy. But at the moment, I got a really nice little lifestyle. You know, I travel about 20 weekends a year, which is easy. And probably Brooksy is the same. Sometimes it does get to be a bit of a grind, but you have 2 or 3 weekends at home, and you're probably the same, mate. You're scratching, what am I going to do now? You know, so
or the wife's scratching to get you out of the house.
Yeah, and
probably why she took up golf.
Right?
That's probably why Louise took up golf. Get out of line.
What is, Dacker, what is the lure of dirt bikes, and that kind of, you guys have just gravitated towards it for, you know, best part of 50 years now for both of you? What keeps you coming back at this age?
Go, Brooksy.
Well, I think, like, I'm very proud that I've come from riding mini bikes in the backyard, the same as Craig and the same as most people in this industry. But we are still now in it, and it's our profession, it's our life, our family life. And, you know, from our era, there's like 5 or 6 guys that raced, and now that's their profession. There's not many. Yeah, you know, some footballers end up being a commentator or whatever, but I mean, there's a lot of footballers in it.
They're lost to the sport once they finish the sport, basically.
Yeah. But we've both come from, well, as I say, everyone that starts riding motocross or racing motocross started somewhere on a home built mini bike or mini trail, and look where we are now. That's what I'm sort of proud of. We're all friends, and it's our profession. We've made a good living out of it, and we did it for the love of racing motorbikes, and we still are. I think that's sort of pretty special to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I moved. I was born and bred in Cronulla on the south coast of Sydney, and about 7 or 8 or 9, something like that, I moved to the western suburbs. So I went from sort of surfing to heaps of farmland and paddocks. So the natural progression is my dad bought me a mini bike, and it sort of it just went from there. And you know, I have a lot of people, and so that's been, I don't know, 50 odd years now, 50 plus years that I've been riding dirt bikes. I don't ride much anymore, but and it's sort of it's led us to this point. I often have a lot of people say, "Oh, you're still doing this for, you know, you've been doing it for a long time. Don't you get sick of it?" For me, it actually gets better because it's not much that you haven't seen, but things still catch you out. You still learn all the time, but without trying to sound cocky, and I could probably speak on behalf of Brooksy with this, the longer you go, you know, life's a pyramid. And as you go up the pyramid, you end up where Brooksy and myself are at now. We don't have too many peers. So if you made it this far, the system spits all the bad people out. So if you made it this far now, excuse my French, but you haven't fucked it up. You know, there's still time to do that. I've tried a lot of times to screw it up, but really we've been, I guess, good people and done the right thing in the industry. Otherwise, we'd be out on our ear.
Yeah, the phone has stopped ringing.
That's cool. Trev the racer, Dack, I found that legendary photo. You look like a Greek Adonis with your shirt on. Trevor Brooks is holding what looks like a Tui's draft can and a cigarette in his mouth. What was that guy like in the race scene back then? Like,
just like that picture showed you. No, that photo was taken. I know the photo you're talking about. That was taken at Mildura, I believe, and it would have been 86 or 87, something like that.
Yeah,
and each year we used to go up there, which is the same weekend. I think it's the Southern or one of the ski boat races on the Murray River. And we used to say to desert races, played John Hendricks. People probably know his name. He had a property on the river, and we used to make a weekend of it. And we did that for several years. That was that photo with the beer and the bottle of plonk, whatever it was. That was just in our esky in the car for our party the next day, because we used to stay up there and let our hair down for a few days, and we used to have lots of fun.
Yeah.
You know, Brooksy was always. I think that maybe, was it that race or one of those races at Mildura? You broke your wrist there, didn't you?
I think it was that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see maybe it's bandaged up there. Trev,
No,
what
wouldn't have been, but yeah.
What was Craig Dack the racer like back in those days? Your version of it, Trev.
I always seen the back of him, but yeah. So, no, he was very, very good, very dedicated to the sport and himself, but still was a great mate, and we still had a lot of fun. So without getting in too much detail, but yeah, we when the chips were down with him. I used to be telling jokes on the start line. I think that was to cover up my nerves, but certainly a very good rider, and he's got the trophies to prove that.
And I think when we were racing together, I don't recall us ever, like, us being the racers together didn't come into it. It was more the friendship more than anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. There's not many people you could say that about. I mean, I probably wasn't a threat to you at all, but we'd always share notes if we had to, and yeah,
that's cool.
Train together a fair bit.
Did we?
Oh, we used to come up and ride at Ballarat. I know about.
Yeah, I love going to the
bike training and all that. And
Brooksy's house is just over the hill from the Ballarat Monza Rovers Club. It's a fantastic track. I used to love riding there. Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time in Ballarat with Brooksy.
Dacker, what's Trevor Brooks's legacy to the dirt bike industry, do you think? I know his story obviously isn't finished, but in his 50 plus years in the industry as a competitor and an organizer and track builder, what does his legacy look like in your opinion?
He's very well respected. You know, even when he sort of branched out and started doing the freestyle stuff, which really enjoyed. I remember all the freestyle riders would talk to me, and Brooksy was their safety net. He was like He was like their father figure. So his legacy is just, I would think, a reliable person in the industry. From his racing days, he's very social. He's well connected, very, very smart guy. A lot of people wouldn't really know his intelligence. The stuff I've seen him build and how he sees things is second to none. But I think he would just be seen as just a very, very big cog in the wheel of this industry. He's a shining light of the industry. When it's all said and done, his legacy will live on for many, many years in many different ways, from track building to freestyle, as a racer, as a good bloke. Not afraid to have a go at anything, and just a very, very reliable person.
Trev, this is, a lot of people listening to this might not know who Craig Dack is, like from my network, a bit younger and stuff, but Craig Dack's voice is probably just about the most respected voice in our industry here in Australia, particularly in the racing scene. He's got a resume to prove that and back that up. How does that make you feel hearing him talk about you like that, Trev? I don't want any tears because Dack will bash you. But how special is that?
No, I mean, it's very special. But the best thing he said was, I'm a good bloke. That's probably better than anything, To be honest with you, I'd rather be a good bloke.
Yeah, true.
Bloke,
You got that in spades, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, before Dacker we go, I want to talk about quickly the Super X era of Supercross. Do we talk about that anymore?
It's funny, the old Supercross scene over the last 2 decades, I guess, like a good friend of Brooksy's and mine, and we've kept friends with a lot of these promoters back in the day. Philip Christensen, who just turned 80 a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
He's the godfather of Supercross in Australia, really. Brooksy and I jumped on a plane together and went up and spent the day with him for his 80th, which was really nice. But since he sort of gave up, handed over, walked away from Supercross and retired, it's been all over the place, to be honest.
Yeah.
Before Super X come along, we were trying to find promoters to get it going. The Super X come along, and they were going to change the world, and they did for a small period of time.
Yeah,
but
didn't work out.
Didn't work. It's a very, very difficult beast, Supercross in Australia. A lot of people get very fixated on Supercross in Australia. They think we are the US, but we don't have the amount of people here. We don't have many stadiums with roofs on them. So without roofs on the stadium, it makes it a very high risk to run a Supercross, as Super X found out. You're basically putting it on black or red, big roll of the dice. So that's why Supercross, it's kind of been all over the place. To me, Australia really more of a motocross country. A lot of people would like Supercross to be like America, but considering how small a country we are and how successful the recent mob are doing it, AME with Adam Bailey and those guys, they're doing a really good job, and they're taking big risks. They're young people, but we pack a big punch here in Australia. Getting 35,000 people at Marvel Stadium, that's no mean feat for any sport. That's big crowds.
Absolutely.
But it is a very, very difficult beat Supercross in Australia. And going back to Brooksy, underlying all that, the stuff people don't see, as you know, Nathan, the stuff he does behind the scenes, never gets the credit for it, but he's a real foundation for all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that was, one of the goals of this podcast episode was, and why, Dacko, you were one of the first people I approached to do it, and having not a relationship with you, was what Trev does that people don't see other than those close to him. And I think his 2 humps, bumps and jumps guys talk so eloquently about it, and you just kind of touched on it again. I can't see the freestyle industry in Australia being anywhere near its caliber that it is to this day without Trev. You kind of look at all the guys who he built ramps for or gave them advice, designs, and did you think he was an idiot when he kind of moved into freestyle motocross at the very start? Like, that was a sport that was, had no history, no nothing. Like, what did you think when he started doing the Crusty Demons stuff?
I think there was tell me, you know better than me, Brooksy, obviously, but I was living with Brooksy for a while, and then he was all of a sudden, he'd be outside. I have this memory of him being out on the back pavement at his garage drawing chalk figures on the ground and da-da-da. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm thinking about making a ramp." It was a fair bit fair bit of work in making a ramp, and he worked it all out and figured it all out. So I think, if I'm right, Brooks, I think that was the sort of catalyst that led him into freestyle. He started making some ramps for people. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. I do remember getting you out for advice. And then what do you think of that? You know,
Don't ask me. I said I wouldn't jump it.
I ended up, there's a nail in the eave that it was holding the ramp up. I only took it out a couple of years ago, but it was there for 20 odd years. Yeah, building the ramps, and I guess just the same thing with the venues. The venues wanted me there to do the dirt.
The Trevor Brooks safety blanket, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would assume that's what would have led him, because he had relationships all around the country with venue managers and all that. You see him when he walks through a venue like Marvel Stadium or whatever stadium, he walks along and all these people walking around. Hey Brooksy, you know, like that. That's what would have whoever was doing that, Pora, who was doing that freestyle series, and he was a smart guy, so he was smart enough to see he needed someone like Brooksy in his corner. That's for sure.
Yeah, so a bit of a combination. I mean, making the ramps, and I didn't really ever want to pick up a welder again, but I wish I never said that, because would have made over 100 ramps, I reckon, easy.
Dack, I want to finish with this. Your godson, Toddy, Trev's son. I know I haven't spoken a lot about Meg, but Toddy, the full circle moment, seeing Toddy join Trev on humps, bumps and jumps as a friend and a godfather. Like, how does that make you feel watching them get to share these world travels for the last 10 years?
It's good because, as I said, excuse me, I've got this chest thing at the moment, but I've got, as I said, Brooksy and I have been known each other for 50 years. You know, as I said, I consider him, if I ended up in jail and I had one person to ring, he would be my man. You know, he's that close to me, and I trust him with everything. And our lives become busy. He travelled. You know, we've gone similar directions, but away from each other. So Todd being able to work with Trevor and going to the races gives us an opportunity to catch up. You know, otherwise we probably wouldn't see as much of each other.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, it's really nice. And just to see their relationship, they're just like best mates.
That's awesome. Trev, I had a question for you. I want to give Craig Dack his flowers. What's Craig Dack's legacy to motorsport and dirt bikes in particular in Australia and beyond? Because he's had a lot of his guys go on to world domination. What is if someone doesn't know who Craig Dack is, what's his legacy?
Well, he's hard work and dedicated at what he does. I mean, that shows from racing until what he does now. Don't really talk bullshit. Spade's a spade. Very good eye for talent, and he created quite a few champions. And I think that is a reflection of himself. To call whoever you want, Chad Reed, you know, the current riders he's got now, they've all, obviously they're all talented, but he's been smart enough to see their talent and nurture their talent and get them to where they are today. And I think that's all relevant to his work ethics and dedication, and he's a good bloke.
I would never have thought a bloke from the Shire and the bloke from Ballarat could become best mates, but it's a long enduring, beautiful friendship. So Craig Dack, thank you, mate, for taking the time. I appreciate you've got a lot going on in your life, and you know everyone dropped everything to chat with and about Trev today. So really humbled and grateful that you could be here and share a bit of the life and crimes and times of Trevor Brooks. We didn't talk about any crimes, so that's good.
We'll have to come back. We're doing a race version.
The after hours episode. Dack,
Yeah.
absolute pleasure, mate. So thank you so much. Yeah, you're the man, Dack. Thank you, mate.
Yeah. See you, boys.
See ya.
Bye. Love you, mate. Bye.
So to wind out our guests for today's episode of Trevor Brooks, I've brought someone who was at the coalface of freestyle motocross, Blake Bilko Williams. I had Brooksy on the Bilko episode. I'm going to start that again. Final guest on today's Trevor Brooks This Is Your Life Behind the Bars podcast is Blake Bilko Williams. You might remember him from episode 4 of this podcast. And on episode 4 of that podcast, I had Trevor Brooks come on to talk about the life and times and career of Bilko. I thought it was only fair that we return the favour and have Bilko talk about the Trevor Brooks career. So, Blake, firstly, thank you for being here today, my friend.
Yeah, no worries. I had a bit on, so I had to clear the schedule.
Mate, we're going to pretend like people haven't heard your episode. So I want to firstly talk about you first meeting Trevor Brooks and what your kind of recollection of that time was and first impressions.
Well, one thing about Trevor I know is he's not scared to tell you what he thinks, and I think that's the best thing ever because there's no messing around. And it was one of my very first freestyle demos. It was in Townsville, and the ramp was a bit close, and the landing was pretty tall. And I was on my 250F, and I said, can we make it a bit straighter? I don't think I'll make it. And he said, well, if you can't jump that, you might as well fucking quit now because you're never going to make it as a freestyler. And walked off on me. And I just thought, oh, shit, well, if I don't jump, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be able to do the sport. So it was just tough love from the start. And then, yeah, pretty much that's how he's been his whole time. But there wouldn't be another face, him or anyone of his team, Sharpie, his son Todd, when I turn around and hit the ramp. If one of those guys don't have the headset on and give me the wave, don't really feel that good about it.
Trev, first impressions of that same first encounter of Blake?
Oh, I don't know, but what I said worked out pretty well.
Yeah, not really, because I broke both my arms about an hour later.
Oh, yeah, that was both Supercross. It wasn't freestyle. It's different.
Did you know at the time, Bilko, who Trevor was?
No, not really. I was just still, the lights were all bright and shiny, and even you're on an indoor arena for me, getting to ride with Jono and Cam and being part of the freestyle and that while doing the racing, I didn't really meet him yet, so to speak. I've probably seen him walk around somewhere there, probably having a bunger, but that was, I think that was our first introduction.
Possibly. I mean, you would have rode Melbourne Park, you know, Rod Laver, what do you want to call it? Tennis centre?
Yeah, probably for Christo I would have, but it's a bit blurry back then. We didn't really have an interaction like that to get the memory going. But from that day forward, it was, right, he's the man that's in charge.
Yeah.
How quickly, I know there's a legendary story, Bilko, that you basically got your start on the Crusty Demons Tour in 2004, and it was Brooksy that put your name forward for that. Is that correct?
Backflip in the 50s, yeah. I think he put me on to Foreman, and then Foreman called me, and then one thing led to another, and did the Melbourne one, and I was stoked, and I drove all the way to Sydney, and I drove all the way to Brisbane just to backflip me 50.
Yeah. There's more with Tyne than Foreman, but yeah. So.
Did you know, Trev, did you know at that time, like your word and your approval is so valued and respected? You obviously must have seen something in Blake to put him forward for an opportunity like that, because you do not recommend fools.
No, that's correct. But when I hear it go, my memory's getting tested. I think the boys have done some stuff in the snow before that. Is that correct, Bilko?
Yeah, in 2004 we did the snow motocross World Industries demo.
But no, I don't know. I just got on well with the boys, and someone said, they needed this and needed that, and I said, I think I can organise a couple of guys to do that. So I got Cam and Bilko brought their little mini bikes down and tore the place apart, and the rest is history. I mean, they created their own history, but yeah, it just snowballed from there.
Let's go to the 2005 Crusty Night of World Records. Bilko, you're kind of just establishing yourself. You'd done the big bikes in New Zealand and that Crusty Demons 10th anniversary tour with all the record jumps at the raceway. When you arrived and saw the work that Trevor done on that, the record jump and then the show set and then off to the side was the band stage. Like, what were your first memories when you walked into that raceway all those years ago?
Man, I've been at the raceway. Obviously, it was gigantic. Had the big run up for the huge landing. Yeah, and it was the first time I've seen anything like that. Distance jumping in person, but. Yeah, I mean, so to that, even that's a blur to me. But I was just doing one-handed flips off the super kicker back then, and really wasn't having a red-eyed crack in. I was still an apprentice. So yeah, dirt bikes were kind of getting in the way of that. And then that was after that tour is when I went and knuckled down and practiced, and then came out swinging the next year. But yeah, like to coordinate all that stuff and to get everyone from production to the sound to the lighting to the pyro and everything, they need a firm hand. And yeah, Trev's pretty good at telling people whether they're doing a good enough job or not.
It's a recurring theme from everyone. You know where you stand with Trev at every moment, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. I think it's kind of one of his real charms and qualities is that no bullshit, spade to spade, facts a fact. Trev, was that at the time? Was that one of the biggest dirt landers ever built?
Would have been probably, yeah. I remember it was a challenge. Lucky enough to find the right dirt guy up there, and he said, "I will do this, this, and this." You know, as I said before, I don't really have a big earth moving background. This guy came in with scrapers, and we dug a hole in the middle of the racetrack, and then they just kept building it up and building it up,
Like,
building it up. Yeah, well, it did rain, so that didn't help. And then the actual Crusty set was even a challenge because it was on a kiddie litter. It was on the gravel, gravel pit, like gravel trap with the cars. So yeah, everything had its challenges. But once again, I think the venue were pretty happy when we left. We had to do a bit of returfing down the side, but that was, what do you call it? I do have a saying for it, but anyway, it had to happen.
Cost of doing business.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, I can't even remember what I call it, but that was a big job, and then it rained, and as I say, got told off for using the wrong material. But yeah. And then to see old world records go down was pretty good. I nearly got killed that day as well. So yeah, it was a good day.
You guys formed a pretty quick bond on that Crusty tour, if my kind of memory serves me correctly, which is, a little bit odd in the sense that, Bilko, I think you were 19 or 20 on that tour, and Trev was, tick over 40. Trev, I'll ask you first. What made you gravitate towards Bilko, and then I want to ask the same question, Bilko. What gravitated you towards Trev? Personalities, I'm going to guess, because you were a clown as Dacky.
We're both clowns. Yeah, both clowns. So I could see a lot of me in him, but I think it's probably similar upbringings, similar morals in life as well. Believe it or not, with the age difference, and just no bullshit attitudes as well from both of us. So yeah, probably. And he's a good bloke.
Yeah,
that's the
recurring theme, isn't it?
The other day, yeah. We both had respect for each other, which always helps, which is a big part in what we both do, whether it's any rider or any guy building jumps and that, you both got to have respect for each other, otherwise it's not going to work. And I think that was a big part of it as well.
Blake, what are your recollections of how you guys formed that almost instant bond and friendship that's endured 20 plus years now?
I mean, I think it all really got really strong on the regional tour 2006, because they didn't have to pack up as much at the outdoor venues, and I'd go out to the after party for a bit, and then I'd come back when the track crew was finished up, and I'd end up in the room with him and Quirky and Sharpie and just
and Brownie
shit. Mm-hmm. And Brownie, yeah, because I was a tradesman back then, so I was kind of into every aspect of it, or it's paying attention to detail, but it ended up just talking shit. But yeah, it was just fun to hang out with those guys because, like at the end of the day, we were all traveling around together, and they're the ones. They're in charge of our life, basically, when they're setting up the ramps. And Brooksy gives the ticket of approval to his guys. And, whenever I see any of those guys in the arena, I feel a hell of a lot safer. And, I got to the point where we'd be in Europe somewhere and I'd get off the sleeper bus. And if Brooksy gave me a thumbs up for practice, I wouldn't even ride into the arena. I'd just headed out the tunnel and hit 75. And that was the first time I seen the inside of the stadium. But his thumbs up just meant everything was good. And in my whole 15 years and 5 shows or 20 years, whatever, there wasn't one time where something was wrong.
Yeah, I think another thing too, like you, Minnie, and like I can name a few, Belky, well, whatever. There was respect, but there was no egos between anyone. And I think that was a good thing. Whereas, you get a bunch of riders together and there's always, an ego getting thrown around, but there was no egos in our room, that's for sure. So,
yeah, although pretty quickly squished.
Yeah.
Well, I think that 2005 tour was such a key point in the history of or the direction that Australian freestyle took, because that was the tour, where the Metal Militia divide and all the big names went over to Metal Militia, and guys like Bilko with no real reputation or publicly known. And I think that probably helped with all those guys, Steve Minnie, Joel Bouchin, Matto, Schubring. None of them had a huge profile we're in MySpace, and I think that's probably why they were just young and stoked and happy to be there, Trev. And I think from the day one, anyone who meets you, and I was the same way back then, just really looked up to you and admired your kind of body of work before you were building tracks for the Crusty Demons. And I think that's probably what kept those guys humbled. I think even to this day, like Steve Minnie and co, still great friends, but still not an ego between them.
I mean, this has been said a few times today as well, but we're all there for the good of the cause. Of course, we're all there for the one goal, like to have a good show. Everyone go out there, stay safe, get it done, have a good time. That's, pretty much fundamentals of life. But anyway.
You're not having fun or getting the job done, it's just not worth it.
Exactly right.
Hey, so we get to 2010, Bilko, and we're at Brisbane Entertainment Centre, the first stop of the first ever Nitro Circus live tour. It was basically the dirt bike crew was basically the Crusty group transplanted with Trev, with me, with a bunch of others. Basically,
we finished rehearsals.
Change hats, finished rehearsals in a couple of hours, and Giganta rehearsed for days upon days upon days, and still fucked up the first 6 shows. Do you remember Trev back then? He was rocking in the Daisy Dukes cowgirls costume for a while. Like, how important was he to ensure that kind of crusty professionalism behind the scenes transferred over to Nitro, and trying to get those BMXs and Gigantas guys to understand we've got to do this, that, or this whole thing doesn't work. Like where Trev took the lead there.
You can't spend 5 days on the airbag and then you have to go to the landing the day of the show. You got to hurry up and rehearse. And I'll pretty much sum it up as I said, Trev's not scared to tell you how it is, even if you're the world's greatest skateboarder like Bob Burnquist. And they were trying to figure out the loop and whatever, and he's looking at it and he goes, I think we need more panels here, and he moved this and that and that, and before that they couldn't even get the loop in the roller door because it was too tall, so that was a pain in the ass. But he turned around to Bob Burnquist and he said, if you think you're getting a bit more flat bottom in there, you can go and get, and then walked off. And Bob Burnquist, I don't think he's ever had anyone speak to him like that ever before. But anyway, they dropped in later, hit the loop, and they were days behind on their rehearsals. It was, maybe to kick up the
It's funny that, like, I think about that Nitro Circus tour and, the time we spent together, there was always little factions, and not warring factions, but, you had the BMX group, you had the God Botherers group, you had the dirt bikers, and you had the track crew. And Brooksy was kind of like the chameleon, a little bit like myself and you, Blake, who could kind of bounce between all the groups. How much fun did you have with Trevor away from the live show, away from the public eye?
Might have been in the public eye, but probably the highlight was riding my. First of all, he rode my OGO bag down the stairs about 3 times, backwards, forwards, whatever, in a bathrobe. Just
smoking jacket it was.
And then I jumped on the back and we went tandem. It was only like 5 stairs tall, but that was a bit of a highlight for me, riding the OGO bag down the staircase. But we got under mischief we could, and it was just always a good time. Like, it didn't matter which country and what you were doing. You'd be like, all right, those boys finished work yet? Or, we'd be hanging out at the venue after.
We'd wait for them, wouldn't we? It was like literally waiting for the candy store to open, was waiting for the Brooksy Humps, Bumps and Jumps crew to finish work so we could hang out with them.
Yeah, and I do remember the last show when we did it in the Netherlands. He got on the DJ decks while I was setting up, and he was playing Doof Doof for everyone before practice. DJ Trevsy.
Trev,
you. 07 last show in Sydney, he directed the show with glow sticks in his hand and his Ray pants on, and as he turned to go to the crowd, all you could see back in the tunnel was
I had all my safety clothes on and everything. Yeah, that popped up the other day. I was chuffed there. It was good. Yeah, that was good times. Good time. That always about a good time.
But
Always.
I mean, you guys are so cut from the same cloth, like clowns, absolute dickheads, but you get into show or work mode. In Bilko, in your instance, your helmet goes on mode. How do you flick that switch from being the clown to the leader? Like Bilko, you were the leader of the FMX crew, and Trev, you were the leader of getting the track built. Like, how tricky is that balance between fun and laugh and serious and hard work? How do you balance that? Trev, I'll ask you first.
You just have to, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know how to answer it. And I always like to, try and make people laugh, believe it or not.
Absolutely.
For the main, just to keep everyone feeling good, if that works, and to show that it's not all business, but when it needs to be business, it is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I really don't know how else to put it. But
What about you, Blake? You see Trev, the serious guy, and Trev, the clown. How did you balance that as the resident class clown of Nitro Circus and Crusty Demons, for that matter?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to balance. I don't know. I'm kind of pretty switched on, I'd say. I haven't had many head knocks, but you realise early on, like it's your production. It's not, you're not just going out there and jumping whenever. If Trevor says go and the lights aren't even on yet, it doesn't matter. You go, because someone's on the radio and they're going to turn the lights on, and you just, righto, that's showbiz at that point. And you just, when it's time to go, it's time to go, and you just rely on riders. When you're doing trains, it's not about the trick you're doing in the train. It's about staying in an even gap with each other. So, because no one notices the biggest trick in a train, they just notice that everyone was evenly spaced. So,
well said.
yeah.
Well said. 'Cause that's always been a bit more on it. But yeah, well said.
Yeah, so it's just like, I think I've only jumped in the dark like maybe once. I think, and it was early on. The lights didn't come on or whatever, but like you can still see, obviously. Yeah, you can still see. But if he waves you, most riders are like, no, I'm not going yet. It's still dark. But it's like, hey,
There's two
it's
blokes walking around with the second arsehole from that night too as well.
But it's just reminding, like, I don't know, because I'm not satisfied unless the crowd's satisfied, really. So if we're out there putting on a show and just something's a little sloppy from the show before, I was always there to do what I could to try and improve it and make sure the crowd were entertained.
You've always all three of us really have been through some really tough times on tour, away from the tour, and we've always been there for each other. Trev, how important, like, you are old enough to be a lot of the guys' dads, but you kind of are more looked at like a big brother. Like, how important has it been for you over the years, kind of watch the growth of guys like Blake, Sinclair, Minnie, kind of grow into young men and now kind of men themselves? Like, how proud are you? You sit here looking at Bilko, and Bilko's had a shitty time of late, but you've watched these guys grow up. Like, how special is that to kind of have shared the evolution of a lot of people? And I probably include myself in that, because I was 21 when I first started working with you. How cool is that?
Well, once again, it's cool for the fact that there's respect both ways. And for me to see, Bilko go from a kid on a mini bike, and Cam for that matter as well, to where they are now and what they've achieved and where they're going to go in life. You got even Belchy sitting there. He's taking his young fella racing now, and then you've got Cam's doing the same with Roxon, and it's, I don't know, it makes you feel good, that chuffed that these boys sort of looked up to you and as a bit of a role model or a what?
Still do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bigger or whatever, and it's once again, it makes you pretty chuffed.
Yeah, it is cool, because I think now, like, I'm 44 years old, met you half a lifetime ago, probably didn't appreciate as much back then what Trev, you did for all of us younger guys, because we were all so naive and stupid, and you could argue we're still naive and stupid, we're just not young. Maybe not naive, definitely stupid. But I look back, particularly now as a parent, knowing what you did for us, and kept us out of trouble, but sometimes helped us find trouble. But I just have so much admiration for what you've done for us forget the work, but just in our kind of personal growth as human beings, I think I just can't imagine how my professional career would have ended without having you by my side for half of my life. So not really a question, but thank you.
Yeah. Well, once again, I respect that, and it makes me feel good, obviously, that I've been able to be that person. And I know, as we've touched on quite a bit about, Mr. Grumpy, but people don't understand what's on your shoulders, going and doing these events. And it's not just, I'm not a 1%er, I'm a 99.9%er of the whole thing. If you ask me,
100%.
So I've got all the problems of the world, and makes, like I said to you earlier about being nervous and stuff. When I built all these new ramps and the new Gigana ramps and this and that, and they weren't even put together. The first time they got put together was at the show. My
They're different
anxiety.
floor plan every weekend or every few days, and then it's just they
Yeah.
got to fix the angle, so we got enough run off, run in, and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
and
just
just the
sleeping on a bus.
anxiety levels are just up through the roof. I wanted to sleep the night or 2 nights before, Not, we hadn't even started the tour then, just saying.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like, give us a bit more of an insight. Like, when that Nitro tour started, you were building the infrastructure for that for the best part of 12 months, from kind of conception to tour starting?
Yeah, so the first ramp was built in the States.
Yeah. The parlor testing?
Yeah, I had nothing to do with any of that. So that
Built
was
in
all.
inches. Idiots.
What'd you say?
Built in inches.
Yeah, it was built in inches.
Material.
Anyway, so we did the first tour, and then we're going to New Zealand and everything, and this ramp ain't going to work. So we changed that around, and then I kind of got cut on budget a bit halfway through it, and then
Shocking.
anyway, shocked me, made it work, and then we're like, oh, we're going to do this 49,000 stop tour in 4 weeks, and they said, well, we've got to build another ramp. So then I went and studied up on scaffold and then redesigned another ramp. That was hard work.
You talk
Working
about the complexity, like, for an outsider looking in, why can't you put the indoor arena ramp on an outdoor stadium show? Like, dumb that down for listeners.
Took too long to build and pull down. Took up too much space in transport and wasn't modular enough, because outdoors you're on a flat ground in a lot of area, and then go to indoors, you've got to build over the seating, and got to fit it through this size door, and there was a whole lot of constraints like that which we had to meet. So building that one was, well, I ended up building 2 Gigana ramps. Some of them are still around to this day.
Then you built the Trigana as well.
Yeah, we don't talk about Trigana, but anyway.
I will say squeezing the Trigana, and then I think you took a panel off, so I was 4 foot skinnier, but full double wide freestyle landing into Rod Laver, and that's when me, Cam, and Trav, I'm doing a flip in the middle, and we're high-fiving, but on the left was the Gigana side, and when we did final change, when Brad didn't send them early, we'd come over, there'd be 14 dirt bikes, a quad and a snowmobile, but there was already 15 BMX bikes just scattered and tricycles everywhere. There was nowhere to turn, and the Trigana landing, the bottom of the roll of the radius of it met the wall at 45 degrees. It was that tight. So they pulled the wall straight into our runoff.
And then you had to go and do all that stuff in a lot of non-English speaking venues as well. And we touched on the fun times of 2012 and 2013. 2015, like, we do the stadium tour of North America, and we get stuck in that hurricane in Dallas on the second to last show, and the Houston show gets cancelled, and we've got to go straight to Europe for Helsinki. Yeah. We turn up. We turn up, Trev. We're all a bit battered and bruised from, I think, whatever we did, a whole 20 odd shows. And one of the ramps wasn't there. Tell us that legendary story. And, Blake, we talked about Trev's problem-solving skills at a time in crisis, he's probably the first person you would call in this world if you had a problem that couldn't be solved. Mr. Rubik's Cube is going to solve that.
Well, if you didn't have him on hand there and then, you were screwed because something had to happen in the next 24 hours or your show wasn't going to happen.
So, Trev, we're in Helsinki. The shipping containers, which I believe may have come from Australia because there was Japan. What he's fact checked me again, and he always wins. I think that's 12-0. Trev versus Brownie. You turn up to do a show, and there's what are we missing, and what's the solution?
Yeah, well, so we're doing a midnight loading. I think it was the first show. I think it was the first time we'd done towing.
Yeah. And I think it was the first stadium outdoor tour of Europe as well. I think we did Budapest and a few others. Anyway, so we turn up and half your show.
Well, we're lucky we had a day up our sleeve because it was our first show. We're loading in a day earlier, so we all just got back. No, we just got back from just flown over from Dallas or wherever you said it was, and Brendan said, "Oh, you come in a bit later." Brendan was our production manager, and he said, "You come in a bit later because you need the rest." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll come in anyway." So I come in and we're unloading everything, and I'm like, "We got another container to come." This is at breakfast. And Brendan goes, "Nah, that's it." So, because we're missing all the framework for the lander. So the lander's all scaffold with panels on top. And he goes, "Well, let me check." So then he comes back and goes, "Nah, that's it." And he sends a photo, and there's this big gap in the container he goes, "You mustn't have put them in Japan." I went, "No." I said, "I'm sorry, but we weren't allowed to leave a piece of rubbish, a bit of metal banding off the scaffold. And I'm pretty sure we would have put these things. We're not talking, size of a pallet. We're talking width of a container, the height of a container, and half the container." Like a 40-foot container.
It's not Brendan Lupos's backpack left behind. It's significantly greater.
Not. Anyway, everyone's like, "Oh, what are we going to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Well, leave it with me. Find someone a scaffold supplier." So, and we only had our two geezers, someone who were there, and they'd been working forever. Anyway, I was sat down on the computer and worked out if we got this bit and that bit and this bit and this bit and some timber and some straps. I think we ended up, I would have a photo of it somewhere, but there would be over 200 ratchet straps holding the thing together in the end. Yeah, it took us all night. It was
too thin a scaffolding or something, so they cross-braced it with ratchet straps. But that was when it started raining before the show, so they put the tarps up on it, and the local crew were trying to pull the tarps up, and then it was wet, and they all started sliding down the ramp with the tarps as well, and the crowd was going mad. That was before the show even started.
And to top it all off, the rain once we got it going, and no rehearsal once again. But so that was we wouldn't let the snowmobile. That's how confident I was. I wouldn't let the snowmobile jump on it. We got through that. Another one,
Wouldn't let Jimmy Blaze jump on it.
Helmet or no helmet.
Yeah, but no, that was a special day.
What do you make, Bilko? I've asked everyone when Trev's, and he's no intention of hanging up the boots. This is not a retirement announcement pod. But when he's done in this world, what is the Trevor Brooks legacy, do you think?
Well, he's the man behind the scenes of like everything, not only like the motivation for riders and like, you don't want to, when he's in charge of the track crew and stuff, you don't want to let them down because they're working so hard. So I think it comes into play there, but also just getting events run and done like Supercross and everything like that, where everything's so cutthroat, so tight, load in, load out, and he never gave up, just worked nonstop. They'd finish at 3, get on the bus, sleep, and then as soon as we're supposed to be sleeping in our bunks, and they're in there setting up scaffolding, and it just it's pretty much essential. Without someone like him and his crew that he brings along, and he wouldn't bring along anyone, or he'd get rid of them real quick if they didn't want to pull in their weight. But it's the key to all of it, really. And progression and stuff with all the ramps he's built, from being the first guy in Aussie to wear white boots. So
I found that photo.
Too. But yeah, it's just someone I looked up to the whole time. And then at any event I was at, I just knew that stuff was going to be handled. And yeah, it's just, I put a big part of my career down to that. I think there was an interview from 2008 X Games or something. And I said, I wish Brooksy and the crew were doing the track because it was so hard packed and dusty and they won't water it because if it gets too wet before TV or some shit. But it was so slippery and skatey. I'm just like, we need a professional here. We need Trev.
Yeah. I think that Trev legacy is like, for me, is all about that. All that work him and his crew have done have helped so many of us succeed in our whatever that career path might be, on the dirt bike, off the dirt bike. Someone like me whose job was to sell tickets and get the people in. Like, none of us probably get any of that, reap any of those rewards without that hard work Trev and his crew have done. And yeah, I probably get a bit emotional thinking about who Trev is to me myself, because particularly as I've got older and now working on some bigger projects and being at a more senior level, and I still come to Trev for advice on just about everything in my professional life. And it's, I think we're so lucky to have a unique human like Trev. And Captain Grumpy is a bit of a piss take more than anything else, because when he's grumpy, he's actually happy. And, Trev, you're just a marvelous human being, mate. I'm really happy that we all got a chance to spend a lot of time with you over the years. So I don't even have a question, but I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Trevsy. I owe a lot of my career to you. You're a legend.
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah. No, thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Hey, Blake, before you go, I just want to, we've talked about the complexities of ramp and lander design. Trev, the evolution of the airbag, you work with them now in the FK world and the back end of Nitro. What's do you like and appreciate what the airbags are? Like, give us an honest take.
Got two mindsets on it. So one, they're fantastic for the industry because they set up so quick, they take up so little room, and they're safe for the guys.
Sometimes.
Yeah. On the dark side of it, I just think they've taken the edge off how dangerous the sport is. Whether it be dirt or scaffold. Like scaffold landers, I never was a fan of that, but that was had to happen if we we're going to progress and move into different arenas and stadiums and stuff. So, because we couldn't take dirt. But I just think airbags take that little bit of the, how dangerous is this? And that's probably my take on it. But
yeah, that's fair.
As far as being good for the sport, they definitely helped with the, longevity for riders. There's a few riders out there that would certainly be retired if it wasn't for airbag landers.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the battered body of Bilko, who did most of his top tier of his career, and the price he has paid for that.
Yeah, and I'm not fully anti-airbag. To be honest, there would have been some of my work behind the scenes would have helped get them to where they are. Detail and we always had an in joke. Wouldn't it be nice to just turn up and roll a seat out and plug a hose in and it all popped up? Yeah. And here we are. Yeah, I'm not. Once again, I'm not claiming anything. The work that the manufacturers have done on them over the years has certainly benefited the sport.
Yeah, no, it's a fun fact. Blake, we're going to let you go. Give us one parting word about Trev before you leave us, mate. He just farted for those of you playing at home.
Did you really? I missed it. One final word, Gold Bond. Every time I flew back to Oz, I had about 8 packets of Gold Bond in me gear bag for Brooksy and the crew. And then I got on the extra
Gold Bond.
I used some of that Gold Bond on the weekend, 2 weekends ago in Cairns.
But then they had that extra strength feed only, and I dared the boys to put it on, and then they were dancing around the whole time they were setting up the ramps. It was a bit.
That was scary. Yeah. What's the blue stuff for? Oh, you didn't, did you? Yeah, I did.
But no, I just thanks for everything, Trev, and it's cool to see Todd doing the same thing now, and I got just as much faith in Todd as I have with you when you guys are standing there with the headset on. It's got to be one of the Brookses, but yeah, I don't think I've got much left in me. But when I do, I'll be looking for you.
One of us will be there, I reckon. So
Yeah.
all
I've still
good.
got your jersey up. You're actually hanging next to, I think you're hanging next to Travis Pastrana.
Hang on the last one, yeah. I've still got a new one.
Hang on. Oh, yeah, you're next to Travis Pastrana, in between Travis and John O'Porter. You should film material of
There
that
you
thing.
go.
That's
It's like,
sick.
yeah,
Look at that.
it's like beach towel. Well, I'll stop crapping on. I'll
Very
let you guys
nice.
finish.
Bilko, you're the
Nice.
man, mate. Thank you for taking the time. And yeah, really important to have you on to talk about the journey of Trevor Brooks, mate. So I love you, buddy. And yeah,
You
talk
wanted to
soon.
talk about the journey of Trevor. Thanks, mate.
All
So
right.
much
Love you,
fun,
buddy.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Talk soon.
Thank you. Cheers, Trevsy.
We're hey, let's just do that again, Blake. We lost you a bit. Anyways, there goes Bilko before we got to record a proper goodbye. So I might just say that's a goodbye. Trev, we're going to do a couple of rapid fire questions and then look at some photos before we wrap. So
Yep.
I put it out to the fan base. You can follow Behind the Bars on Instagram, YouTube, and I don't know where else, Facebook. Couple of questions for Trevor Brooks. Who was Evel Knievel to you?
Wasn't anyone special, to be honest. I don't know why. Yeah. He was, yeah, I never had Evil Knievel toys. I went around when I was a kid. But, yeah, honestly, wasn't anyone special. I don't know whether that's the answer you're looking for, but
No, not really, but that's okay. I want
The answer I
Trev, you'll never burden yourself with lies, if nothing else. So truth is the answer I'm seeking. Who was the worst group of local labor to work with around the world?
Saudi, they were pretty bad in Saudi.
I've got a video of that. Cue video here.
You know, I was going to say that.
I'll put that in post because I don't know how to do it live.
I mean, the French were hard. When you're in Europe and stuff, they'd always just, I don't understand English. Then you say, thank you for your help today. And they'd go, oh, no worries. Yeah, good on you. It's like, where was the English back, earlier this morning? And it's not possible. It's not possible.
Not possible.
Not possible.
You know what they say about Paris? It would be the best city in the world if it wasn't full of French people.
Yeah.
I love the French, but yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, to the less than 1% of French podcast listeners, I apologize profusely for that. What year did you build your first ramp?
As in freestyle ramp?
Freestyle ramp.
99.
99.
The one that Dack was talking about.
Most annoying rider to set up for? You probably don't want to name and shame. We can pass on that
No,
one.
not really. I mean, they all...
We'll go past that one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I think I know the answer, or a couple. How much organic matter is in a standard Supercross track?
What do you mean organic matter?
No idea. Like, I guess not straight dirt.
There shouldn't be any.
Shouldn't be any. What about hey? This isn't a view. This isn't a lit.
40% soil or 60% clay. This would be the rule of thumb.
Is the rule of thumb. And what about when we had those issues with Hot Wheels New Zealand, and you had to revert from that type of dirt because it was too muddy, and you had to switch to the road base? Like, how did you know that was going to work to pull those two shows off?
I mean, we'd use gravel for roads in and out of the venues before, so I knew that would help. I mean, Justin Barclay from the UK, he sort of lives in the wet weather country too. He kind of used it, so it wasn't just my idea. We all talked about it, and I think it would. I honestly think, I know there was some issues with leaching through to the grass and stuff, but at the end of the day, if we had built that out of soil,
there would have been no show. It's one of the great pivots in live event history, I reckon, what you did to save that tour. And really, honestly, Trev, I think about all the things I've achieved in my career. That one was one of my most proud moments because you made me look so good, and you did make the impossible possible. And I think, again, it goes to, the people close to it know it was Brooksy, but the people who aren't close to it, Trev, you've never wanted the accolades or the credit for anything. You've always done what you can to make everyone look good. So thank you for that. Last question. How much milk or cherry ripes have you had during this interview? I haven't seen any, but you did go.
No, I haven't had any. It's not a daytime thing. It's It's a nighttime karma. So Tim Tams, Kerry Rocks. It's either milk and chocolates or beer.
Yeah.
One or the others. And like, yeah, I've been off the beer, so I've been drinking a lot of milk.
I can confirm I had a late night airport pickup on the Freestyle Kings tour recently, and I had to get Trev at 11 o'clock at night. And yep, we had to go to 7-Eleven to get the cherry ripes and milk so he could be primed for the next day of work.
Yeah, it's quite entertaining too. The local crackhead.
The local crackhead. How cool is it? You know, we got to get back together on the Freestyle King show, and now you've kind of a bit of a mentor for Josh and the track crew. Like, is it cool kind of passing on that knowledge to another and a new generation of kind of hard working track guys?
Yeah. I mean, when I first started, not everyone gave me the respect, I suppose, or, who's this guy? But eventually it all worked out, and now I kind of take a back step now, which is good, which is
Yep.
what I'd like to be doing.
Yep.
But I still try and make sure everything happens as quick and good as it can.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and just always there to pass on that knowledge.
Yeah.
I sleep
Tell Jack off for driving the track too slow or something like that.
Mate, we're going to finish up there. I want to say thank you for your time and an amazing chat and such an incredible insight into your life and journey. But for those of you who want to stay on, this is only going to really work for the video version of this podcast. I've done a little slideshow, and Trev, if you can open it up, we're just going to go rapid fire through this.
How did I do that? Did I open it up? There's a one in the email, all right?
Yep, you should just be able to click that link and it should pop up. All right, so a little bonus episode. This is only going to work for the video viewers, and we'll post this on all the things. With the help of Louise and Toddy Brooks, I found some memories of Trevor, and I want to kind of quickly quiz him. I'm going to ask him one question on every photo, and we're going to see how quickly we can get through this. Slide 1, Trev. Whose bike is that in the Christmas morning by the looks of it? I can see Trev and Todd.
Yeah, that lives on the balcony. That's Dacky's Mr. Motocross Australian Championship bike that I had on display for quite a few years.
Your beautiful family, it's kind of your purpose in life, right?
Yep, definitely.
Easy. Didn't know you'd ever been to the beach, Trev. Where's this? Got an Etnies. Yeah, I reckon you've got an Etnies hat from the early 2000s.
Yeah, that would have been my tour hat. I used to wear them for a tour. Yep, that was I was actually doing BMX for Planet X. Yeah,
Wow.
Adelaide.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, is that down near Henley Beach or something?
Glenelg, isn't it?
Glenelg. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a bit going on here. I like the flaming red mullet, but tell us about that get up you're wearing.
Well, that was before nylons, so they were leather,
Wow.
and it would have been about 70, 79, I reckon.
Tell me, you were so lean and skinny in your racing days. Like that leather you must have lost a couple of kilos racing in leathers during the summer.
Yeah, they're pretty warm, but wasn't too bad, I suppose, compared to they weren't full leathers, it was only the pants. So, and then the next photo,
I gotta ask, like, what is going on with this M&M thing?
M&M. So
I've gone on to the next slide. Sorry,
no,
slide
you're
4.
good. You're good. So
Top photo is the Crusties in 2006, maybe with Toddy.
yeah, Toddy's best mate at the time.
Yeah. I can see Adam Jones, Luke Smith, Sinclair, John Gedder, Bouchy, Nate, Shoebring, Jimmy Blaze.
Yeah.
Mad.
Yeah, get it, yeah.
Yeah.
And then underneath, so that we have a Moomba parade
No.
in Melbourne.
No.
Well, remember, we have one in Ballarat called the Begonia Festival, and you got to do up floats and whatever, and you win prizes and stuff. And that was just a Mars social club, because my darling wife Louise worked for Mars for years.
Okay, so you've been a promo chick for Louise.
Yeah. How good are the arms?
Yeah, you are ripped. Dacky talked about this a little bit. So is that your best man at his wedding? That's Dacky being best man at your wedding. It looks like you guys would have had some fun that night.
Yeah, it was pretty good weekend actually.
And there's Craig and Toddy just being
Yeah,
God.
just on the boat.
Yeah, that's so sick. He's had a couple of Mr. Motocross trophies.
Yeah, he won 4 in the end. There's only 3 there.
And this is the legendary photo. We've kind of got the quote about that, so I'm going to move past that one.
Yep.
27, is that you or no?
That's me, 20.
Okay. Trev, where and when is this?
82, and it's at Monza Park, which is the track Dack was talking about. It's just out of the back of my house.
Is it still a track today?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. The only thing that rattled me, Trev, in my research that I thought I knew everything about you.
Yeah.
You and Louise used to breed champion dogs.
Yeah, so we got Hungarian visitors. We've had them for quite a while, and we bred quite a few litters, and we both were pretty heavily involved in the obedience club, local club, and that was our weekend family thing to do. We had top dogs that went to Australian championships.
You were breeding champion dogs. Sonny the Labrador leads the way for the Ballarat Dog Obedience Club's winning agility team. Looking on from left are Cheryl King and Cujo, Sonny's only Terry Slater, Trevor Brooks with Jess, and Louise Brooks with Zach. You're an onion with layers and layers and layers, and the dog obedience training layer was new to me. When did Jeremy McGrath come here?
99.
Oh, there's his number 2 bike there.
Yeah, no, he's on the Yamaha. So that's Sharpie holding the Yamaha.
Shit.
Yeah, and then there's Jeff, who was the track builder, and it's sort of this is the year I got called back in, I think, and then that's me holding 15. So you got, I don't know who's 15. You got Cam Taylor, I reckon it is there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he's on. Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
and your blue is track crew, or are you marshals as well?
Nah, that would just be the Spokes Promotions.
Spokes Promotions, yep.
Yep.
There's a legendary story that has gone around the industry that you were the first person photographed in a magazine in Australia, white boots. Is this the photo?
Yeah.
What year you reckon that is?
84.
84. Damn. Looking at that photo, which you may have not have seen for many, many years, what memories does that bring back, Trev?
So it's when I come back from America in the start of 84, we went over there, and so it brings back a lot of memories from that. And it was good. It was a pretty good year, actually.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, this looks like you could be a henchman for Chopper Reed in the underworld days. What? There's a lot to digest here. Tell us about that bike, and what year is this?
I want to say 79.
So you're a teenager, but you've just got
I'm still doing
so much steez. It's not funny. Is that your family home?
Yep. Yeah, it was one of the ones in Brown Hill before we got the hotel.
Hey, and so did Brian Deegan get the number 38 from you then?
No.
That is so sick. What's the significance of 38? Is there any?
They used to give you a number every year. You didn't pick your own number.
Yeah, okay.
So I just moved into A grade from B grade is probably what the photo
What are
was
you
about.
there, like 18 or something?
Just, yeah.
Yeah, just. Wow. Hey, so we never really got to talk too much about the legendary Brooksy's Boneyard and Shed, but this is you with Toddy and a digger building the shed. Is that right?
I don't know about building the shed, probably like a sand pit, maybe.
Yes, it's a sand pit.
Yeah, Todd's in the skiddy with me and helping out with shovels. He's an operator now. He doesn't touch shovels now.
How think about, we've talked about you and Toddy working together in this podcast. Like, what a full circle moment. Him, a kid playing with dirt or sand in this instance, and now he lives in that space. That's cool, huh?
Yeah. No, it is. It's really good to have him involved. And he's
Forging
doing
his
really well.
I think it's so great as well, Trev, for Toddy. He's forging his own path now as well and doing some things without you, I think the WSX or whatever, because I don't think a lot of people could appreciate, I certainly couldn't, how hard it is to come into the same industry as as your father, who is such a legend of the space, like it's almost impossible act to follow. So, I mean, he was young and kind of probably not as worldly when he started, but the last couple of years he's just grown into a great, fine young man, a dad, and a deep thinker. And I've really enjoyed his journey over the last 10 years.
Yeah, no, me too. Very proud of him.
This is a newspaper article. I can tell you the date, Trev, 1982.
Yeah.
Ballarat's Trevor Brooks will face tough opposition in the main A grade event. What does that photo and news article invoke?
Not much, really. So,
Great answer. Great answer. Here's a couple more. I think you don't really need to talk to this. I'm just going to put it in as a group of photos, but it's just so cool seeing, all of this stuff. And obviously Louise has kept all this stuff and it sits in a little treasure trove in the shed somewhere, but it kind of talks to the life you lived before the life you live now. I think it's so cool that, particularly the younger generation in our industry will get a deeper understanding of where Trev came from. As your boiler maker, you got the call up to race for Australia in Hong Kong, was it?
Yeah. It was 1981 that would have been, because I remember I rode a Honda and it was a piece of shit. Yeah, that was quite interesting. It was out the boonies of Kowloon and wherever in Hong Kong, and
I think there's a photo on coming down. Ballarat Rovers Motorcycle Club Sportsman of the Year, 16-year-old Trevor Brooks. Wow,
Yeah.
50 years ago.
Yeah,
How cool.
a little bit.
Ballarat Rovers Motorcycle Club has given one of its members, Trevor Brooks, a push in his efforts to get to the US next month for the US motocross circuit.
Yeah, that was out in front of the pub.
Wow.
And the president and secretary of the club, I think, come up for the photo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
club give me a few bucks to help me get there, so it was good. Much appreciated.
That is so sick.
Yeah, right.
Brooks wins motocross championship 1985. Holy shit, is that Todd or Trevor Brooks?
Yeah, I know. Anyway, it's me.
Got a few more pictures of that. Is this you or not you?
No, that's me.
What's happening here? Number 3, white gear,
So
black boots.
Yeah, that would have been the last year, because I was number 3 in 86. I think I was. Yeah, I was.
The other article says your plate was you were given the number 3 ranking.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, you made skiing look cool. In what year are we here, Trev? Got your Yamaha racing team jackets.
89 it was.
89. Look at Louise. Louise the Steezy and Brooksy the Steezy.
Yeah.
Number 3. That's your last racing year? I'll bundle that up with the next one. You're on a boat cruise here. Same trip. Maybe in France.
No, Amsterdam, I was saving you.
Yeah, Ron of the Heart. You can see it in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, same trip. Awesome. Not you?
4 and 14, no, they're both me.
What year?
4 would have been 85, and then the other one's 14. That was Mr. Motocross, so that's probably 85 as well. 14, that had to be 84, because I didn't ride 500s after that.
Doing a bit of water skiing and mountain biking. That's you had a pet cockatoo. Is that your pet cockatoo?
Yeah.
What's he called?
Johnny 5.
25. Now, bit to unpack here.
First mountain bike in Australia too.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's not a lie.
What year is that, you reckon?
84.
Wow. Hey, so I don't know what's going on here. Tell me what's going on.
Me and Grant Kramer goofing off. That was always his pit bike.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, yeah. You were so lean, Trev. No offense.
No, that's right. There's sunken chests and all sorts.
Hey, this looks like 2 cool guys in the 80s. What are you doing here?
Well, that'd be from the
Home?
US.
Yep.
Yeah. I got no idea who he is.
I bet you he was thinking the same thing when you turn up with those sunglasses and that mullet and going, who the fuck is this bloke?
Yeah. No, I did get did get a sort of friendly with one of them, and that could have been him. I can't
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's
That's
this?
arena in Melbourne.
Huh?
I do the cutting,
Yep.
waterfall stuff.
How much do you love the art of crafting dirt?
I like it when I can control it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good
If
answer.
that makes sense, because it's probably 90-10, 90% out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where are we here? This looks like your pride and joy.
yeah. That was my first car, HZU, X Telecom, or whatever they were called back then.
Wow, that is steez. You look so old when you were young. You look very old and mature. Found this pretty identifiable as the 2005 Crusty Tour. You can see Bilko in the top left there.
Yeah,
It's a cool old photo.
yeah.
Yeah, go. What's going? Where's this and when?
Wagga Wagga, I want to say.
You are unbelievable.
Am I right there?
Yeah, you are. Yep.
Yeah.
2000 and because we did, it's the Unleash Hell. So we did 2005 10th anniversary, 2006 East Coast Carnage, 2007 Unleash Hell Cap City, and then 2008 Unleash Hell. That was the big long regional one.
And
Which
it was on April the 4th. I know that much. The only reason that was me, Chad that used to work with us, still does from time to time. He got married on Friday, so I flew up. The boys flew up.
oh, no way, that's mad.
Yeah, we went to the wedding and then made it back to the Saturday show. Oh, it might have been the 5th, April the 5th, because he got married on the same day.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
We chatted about this, that the 2005 Crusty Night of Records Lander, Crusty Demons. I mean, yeah, I can't hide where that is because it says it. But that's at the end of 2006 East Coast Carnage tour.
Yeah.
I reckon it was because if you look down the front right, holding the footy, I think that's Jacko Strong, and that was he took over from Levi as the Crusty Grom in 2006.
Yeah, and he had to go. He went swimming for keys. Remember?
Yeah. Yep. And he also got taped to a chair and put out the front of the crowd at this same show. And back when you used to haze the new guys.
Yeah.
Sexy show set of 2005 Crusty Tour.
Yeah.
It's cool. I remember this is my first hometown show, and I had all my friends. It was back in the day when Kudos Bank Arena was still the Sydney Superdome, maybe. I've still got the ticket. I'll find it. And we all of the people who worked for, I think we were Rush Sports then, we all got a private suite for our friends and family. And my friends just caused absolute chaos in there. And a few of them got kicked out for drunk and disorderly behaviour. And then they pulled a prank on me that I had to go, that I was going to lose my job unless I went and apologised to Don Elford, who was at the time the boss and is still one of the great men in our industry. But Don Elford was in on the joke, and we still, like, he gave me a proper rinsing down, and then I was like, gotcha. But my friends caused chaos, and I that was the only other time I thought I was going to lose my job.
I ran into Don Elford the other week at that Christo's birthday party, that 80th birthday party.
Cool. Yeah, I saw him when I was there last with, when was I even there last? Hot Wheels. Yeah, I saw him. Always on the move, Don Elford, one of the absolute greats.
Easy to guy.
Yeah, he says he is. All right, Trev, test.
Where it is?
Yeah.
Aubrey.
Oh, yeah. It's as if I was going to get you on that. Was that our first ever outdoor show for Nitro?
Yeah.
Two things stand out for me that I remember. That was Willie making his debut, come down in his school uniform, and then an unnamed pyrotechnics company launching their fireworks into the crowd and setting a kid on fire. Is that memory?
Yeah.
And the locusts. And our first ever reserve day, and I didn't have the reserve day tick box done, and maybe that was another time I thought I was in a bit of trouble.
No, we're in trouble trying to get it to Newcastle and Bilko. We did it.
Yeah, because that first tour was Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct.
Looked like you spent a bit of time on the water. This looks like fun.
Well, that's when Dacky was talking about going up to Mildura for that.
Oh, okay, yep.
So where we stayed, our friend's place over on the river, and that's Jeff Leaf there.
Wow.
Buddha, Peter Laskowski, who was Jeff's mechanic, Dave Armstrong, me, and I don't know who that. I can't work out who that is.
That is so cool. You look like you're leading the fun there, Trev. So I've got Toddy sent me this photo, and it's from a photo album, and the caption back in the day when you used to handwrite the caption for a photo, tennis center mishap. What's going on here?
Well, that's yeah, so it's not the tennis centre, it's one Sydney Entertainment Centre, which isn't there anymore.
Yep. Rest in peace.
And we did Friday night. We done the Speedway with bike, and then once that was over, we brought in more dirt, and we were going to, well, we still did build a Supercross track. So that was Australian Native Landscapes truck, and it was our pride and joy. Anyway, back then that filled it up a bit much, and old mate's gone to tip it up, and it just, the hoist, give it a rev, and the hoist just kept going through the mouth.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So the hoist was up, and it all just fell down, come down in a big heap, and then so I had to get in there with the Bobcat and
that's you and the Bobcat, is it?
Yeah, and dug it all out, and then they chained it together and got rid of it. So, but it was certainly a moment.
This year?
What's that?
Is this?
Yeah, that's a Monza. That would have been, well, white boots. That would have been 84.
Did you have any say? Did you ever get gear design? Did you ever get gear design for you, or you just picked what you liked off the shelf?
Jerseys you could design, but the rest was sort of off the shelf at my level. But I was sponsored by Kenny J Racing, but I was sponsored by Steve Kramer Products, who was a good mate of mine.
Yep.
And still is.
Still is, yeah, because that was the other guy that Toddy suggested if I couldn't get Dacker was to talk to Steve. And is this the photo shoot with the white boots?
Nah, that's just practicing out. They're actually a different brand of boots. They're Alpine Stoves. So that's 85. Yep.
Trail and Track magazine, I think from 1985.
No, that's 84. It should be 84. That's what
84, yeah. It's talking about the 84. Yeah, September 1984.
Yeah. So that's the article that I was a pin-up poster in the middle of it.
So that's you on that cover, and that was a pull-out poster.
No, it's not me on the cover.
Oh, you've collected that because you're the poster, which is that Kawasaki one.
Yeah.
The white. Oh, sick. Okay, cool. Trev, I want to ask you a question. Of all the unique places dirt bikes in this industry has taken you, what's the most random one, do you think? I'm not asking you to say Saudi Arabia. No, just to travel to.
Honestly, Japan.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Not so much random or anything, but just such nice people and
experience.
Yeah, especially to work in too. I mean, we talked about that the other day in the car, I think, but yeah, that's probably the pick of them.
Yeah. And what about our 2017 Saudi Arabia experience, which was so much fun until it wasn't?
Yeah, I look like a big fat grandma.
I was gonna say, you kind of look a little bit like Mother Teresa. God rest her soul. But we did that whole show, and by the way, we asked permission and we were encouraged to do so by the local promoter, so it wasn't disrespectful at all. But
that was the first thing we checked.
First thing we checked. I mean, we're idiots, but we are culturally sensitive, and they encouraged us to do that. And I always think about every time I see one of these photos, it reminds me of my most unique request for a ticket order, and it was Travis Pastrana asking for 10 tickets for Osama bin Laden's nephew to this show.
Yeah.
Remember we had to you were in heaven because there was no alcohol, but the hotel bar had a whole heap of chocolate milk and milkshakes, didn't it? That's what we lived on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Bus number 2, we'll talk. I'll just get the sound grab from that. Brownie and Trev, that was just a photo I took. Brownie and Trev, 2012 Nitro Tour, I think, based on the artwork. 2012, yeah, because...
Yeah, it's pretty early by the...
Yeah, 12 or 14.
When yet?
It's either 12 or 14, I reckon, because 16 was party. We went, what did we go? We went Hillbilly. What was the second theme? Was the second theme? Was it
similar, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it Hillbilly then Redneck? It was kind of very similar. And then 2014 was
nightclub or disco or whatever.
Yeah. 2016 was 10th anniversary party. I don't know. I'll
Yeah.
fact check it. What's going on here?
So Louise is a mad Collingwood supporter. You had him in, obviously. So just did the lay down shot.
Yeah. That's Travis Cloak, isn't it? He was the
I don't know.
big
The
star
Dennis
at the
before.
time. Yeah.
I know. What's the Origin the other night? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not talking about that here. Trev, what's going on here? You look like you're having a bit of fun here.
Just taking the piss out of someone. Mark's Bilko. He might answer it for you. So
we talked about this on the Bilko episode, when Patrick was born.
Yeah, that's the morning of.
The morning after the night before.
Yeah, that one.
Trevor Brooks, what an absolute honour to kind of share the last few hours with you, have some of your great friends and influence on to talk about you, opening up about life and your journey, mate. It's a pleasure to call you a friend, and an even greater pleasure to be able to tour the world with you for so many years. And I kind of thank you for your service, your tutelage, your friendship, your humour, your grumpiness, but most of all, just your care and compassion for other people. And I think, everyone's described you as a good bloke. I'll go one further. You're one of the greatest blokes I know. So, Trevor, thank you for being here today and, kind of shining a light on your life and your achievements. And I know you're a really humble guy who doesn't really like talking about himself. So I appreciate you opening up, Trev, and I'm forever grateful. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks on Freestyle Kings.
Yeah, all good. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks to everyone who supported me and my family. It's not over. But anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely not over, Trev. But yeah, I know, mate. There's many chapters left in your workbook, because you're gonna work till your very last days. I've no doubt, because that's the work ethic you have. So what an absolute pleasure and honour. Shout out to Louise, Megs and Toddy as well, who helped me with the photos and kind of allowed us to do this, and allowed you, Trev, to do what you've done for the last 40 years as well, Trev, mate. So cheers to you, Trev. Cheers to everything you've achieved, and cheers to more achievements in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trev.
Loved everyone. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Trev.
Yeah. That it?
That's it, mate.
Thanks, Brandon.